Selamat siang, Bapak Ibu yang kami hormati.
Selamat siang semua.
Yang terhormat Menteri Pemberdayaan Perempuan dan Perlindungan Anak Indonesia, Ibu Igusti Ayu Bintang Darmawati. Yang kami hormati Kepala Lembaga Ilmu Pengetahuan Indonesia, Bapak Laksana Tri Handoko. Pelaksana tugas Kepala Arsip Nasional Republik Indonesia, Bapak Muhammad Taufik. The Honorable Director General of National Archive of Myanmar, Mr. U Tun Zhao. Yang kami hormati Ketua Komite Nasional MOW Indonesia, Bapak Dudi Hidayat. Pelaksana tugas Deputi Bidang Konservasi Arsip, Ibu Multi Siswati. Kepala Arsip Nasional Republik Indonesia periode tahun 2014 sampai dengan 2019, Bapak Mustari Irawan. The Honorable Deputy Director General of National Archive of Vietnam, Ms. Nguyen Thien Nga. Vice Chairman MOW-CAP, Mr. Mitsuru Haga. Secretary General Sarvika, Ms. Hafiza Osman. Secretary General MOW-CAP, Mr. Andrew Henderson. Advisor for Communication and Information UNESCO, Office Bangkok, Ms. Misako Ito. Yang kami hormati Ketua Harian Komisi Nasional Indonesia untuk UNESCO, Bapak Arif Rahman. Para narasumber kita pada hari ini, Ibu Kurniawati Hastuti Dewi, Mr. Ming Kwok Lim, and Mr. Kurt De Belder. Yang kami hormati pula para pejabat pimpinan tinggi di lingkungan Kementerian Pemberdayaan Perempuan dan Perlindungan Anak Republik Indonesia, para pejabat pimpinan tinggi di lingkungan ANRI, LIPI, kementerian dan lembaga yang hadir pada hari ini, serta Bapak Ibu hadirin yang berbahagia. Pertama-tama marilah kita panjatkan puji dan syukur kehadirat Tuhan Yang Maha Esa, karena atas berkat dan rahmat-Nya, kita diperkenankan untuk bergabung dalam aplikasi Zoom Meeting pada hari ini, Kamis 15 April 2021, dalam acara International Webinar on Gender, Archival Documentary Heritage, and Memory of the World. Dalam sesi diskusi pada hari ini, panitia telah mempersiapkan hadiah menarik berupa 5 t-shirt untuk 5 penanya terbaik yang dipersembahkan oleh archives.id. Bapak Ibu yang kami hormati, berikut akan saya bacakan tata tertib webinar pada hari ini. Tata tertib acara yang pertama, peserta harus berpakaian sopan dan berperilaku santun saat acara berlangsung. Selama acara berlangsung, peserta tidak diperkenankan berbicara. Mode unmute akan dinonaktifkan. Bagi Bapak dan Ibu yang akan mengajukan pertanyaan, kami silakan untuk mengajukannya melalui fitur chat atau Q&A yang tersedia setelah dipersilahkan oleh moderator. Form evaluasi akan disampaikan sebagai bukti hadir. Link pengisian form evaluasi akan disampaikan sewaktu-waktu pada saat acara berlangsung, pada kolom chat di Zoom dan WA Group, serta otomatis akan ditutup 30 menit setelah acara selesai. Pastikan kembali nama lengkap tanpa gelar sudah benar untuk dicantumkan dalam sertifikat. Ketentuan untuk mendapatkan e-sertifikat adalah sebagai berikut. Yang pertama, Bapak Ibu sudah terdaftar sebagai peserta. Bapak dan Ibu mengikuti acara dari awal sampai dengan selesai. Bapak dan Ibu mengisi form evaluasi. Apabila Bapak dan Ibu tidak mengisi lembar evaluasi, maka Bapak dan Ibu tidak akan mendapatkan sertifikat. Sertifikat akan kami informasikan melalui WA grup peserta 3 hari setelah acara selesai. Materi kegiatan pada hari ini dapat Bapak dan Ibu unduh melalui website Arsip Nasional Republik Indonesia atau melalui tautan yang akan diinformasikan panitia setelah form evaluasi ditutup. Bapak dan Ibu yang kami hormati, mengawali acara pada hari ini, marilah kita menyanyikan lagu kebangsaan Indonesia Raya. Hadirin dimohon untuk berdiri. Hadirin disilahkan untuk duduk kembali. Bapak Ibu yang berbahagia, selanjutnya akan disampaikan sambutan oleh Ketua Komite Nasional Memory of the World Indonesia. Kepada Bapak Dudi Hidayat, kami silakan.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Greetings to all of us. I wish you a very good afternoon in Jakarta time, or perhaps good morning in another part of the world. The Honorable Minister of Women Empowerment and Child Protection, Ibu I Gusti Ayu Bintang Darmawati, Chairman of the Indonesian Institute of Sciences, Bapak Laksono Trihandoko, Acting Director General of National Archive of the Republic of Indonesia, Bapak M. Taufik, Acting Deputy Director General for Archive Administration, National Archive of the Republic of Indonesia, Ibu Multi Siswati, Director of the Leiden University Library in the Netherlands, Bapak Kurt de Belder, Advisor for Communication and Information UNESCO Office, Regional Science Bureau for Asia and the Pacific in Jakarta, Bapak Ming Kwok Lim, and the representative from MOCAP Bureau members, also Southeast Asia Regional Branch of the International Council on Archives, and of course, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am very honored to be here today to host this important event, and it is also my pleasure to welcoming all of you in this webinar. On this happy day, rainy day actually, let us give thanks to God for His grace and blessing so that we can attend the webinar entitled Gender Equality, Archival Documentary Heritage and Memory of the World. Ladies and gentlemen, United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, supports gender equality in all aspects. One of the areas we believe can further increase the value of the gender-related documents is the Memory of the World program. UNESCO looks at gender equality document from 3 different gender equality markers, or GEM. First is gender sensitive. It means items that identify and acknowledge gender inequalities, but do not address it. Second is gender responsive. These are items that may include actions, policies that sought to address gender inequality. And the third is gender transformative, items that had a real impact or affected changes in a transformative matters. Out of the current 155 items of Mau documentary heritage in the Asia-Pacific region, only 4 items have any discernible links to gender or could be deemed to contribute to gender equality. To find out whether Indonesia has gender documentary heritage that meets the 3 categories of gender equality markers, it is necessary to identify and to research archives that are in the custody of the National Archives of the Republic of Indonesia. The project aimed to identify archives held within the institution that could be categorized under at least one of the 3 gender equality markers. And the result of this research activity will also become a recommendation for the nomination of gender-related archival documentary heritage for memory of the world of UNESCO. Last year, the Indonesian Institute of Sciences, in collaboration with National Archive of the Republic of Indonesia and the Regional Science Bureau for Asia Pacific of UNESCO Jakarta office, conducted a research and identification of archives in the custody of National Archive of the Republic of Indonesia that can be categorized under the 3 gender equality markers, out of which they could also potentially be nominated for the inscription on the International Memory of the World Register UNESCO. The project encountered challenges during its preparation and implementation because it was conducted during the pandemic era. The project was highly impacted by the government policies in responding to the pandemic. The change in the working condition that usually work from office into mostly work from home resulted in also a challenge during the identification process. The project's result will be presented in today's webinar with the theme Gender Equality, Archival Documentary Heritage and Memory of the World. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the objective of this webinar are twofold. First, to increase public awareness on gender-related archival documentary heritages in Indonesia. And second, to enhance the international collaboration on the nomination of gender-related archival documentary heritage for the inscription on the International Memory of the World Register of UNESCO. The honorable attendees, this webinar will also be enriched by speakers, including first, the Minister of Women Empowerment and Child Protection of the Republic of Indonesia as a keynote speakers, which will deliver the interesting topic about the policy of gender mainstreaming in Indonesia. Then Dr. Ming Kwok Lim, Dr. Lim, will be talking about applying the gender equality lens to the Memory of the World program. The next is Dr. Kurniawati Hastuti Dewi from Indonesian Institute of Sciences. She will share with us the results of the gender studies and scientific research on the Gender Equality Archive in Indonesia. The next is Dr. Randa Multisiswati MM. She will be presenting international collaboration on the nomination of Gender Equality Archive for the inscription in UNESCO's International Memory of the World Register. And finally, the last presentation will be conducted by Mr. Kurt de Belder, the director of the Leiden University Library. He will be presenting about Cartini letters as the world documentary heritage. So all those topics will be very interesting for us. And the discussion will be guided by our moderator, Adi Gesit Pambudi. We are hopeful that the discussion result will also enrich and provide positive input on the result of the project. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on this occasion, I, as the chairman of the Indonesian National Committee for Memory of the World, would like to express my gratitude to the National Archives of the Republic of Indonesia, Indonesian Institute of Sciences, and UNESCO Office Regional Science Bureau for Asia Pacific in Jakarta, who have assisted us tremendously to make this webinar possible. Your cooperation and participation is greatly appreciated. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Almighty God, always provide us His guidance in our service to the community, nations, and the Republic of Indonesia. Thank you very much. Billahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih Bapak Dudi Hidayat yang telah menyampaikan sambutan pada hari ini. Hadirin yang berbahagia, acara selanjutnya adalah sambutan oleh Ketua Harian Komisi Nasional Indonesia untuk UNESCO. Kepada Bapak Arif Rahman, kami silakan.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'd like to say thank you very much to Pak Dudi Hidayat, who has opened the discussion, and my greatest gratitude to the Indonesian Institute of Sciences, led by Dr. Laksana Tri Handoko, Master of Science, and I like to introduce myself. I am Arif Rahman, and I am the Executive Chairman of the UNESCO in Indonesia, and I'm as the Vice President of the Minister of Education and Culture, as the chair for the National Commission for UNESCO in Indonesia. First of all, I would like to say thank you very much to all of you, to especially the committee who has initiated this webinar activity. Certainly, gender and documentary heritage that is included in the memory of the world is very, very important. Why it is called the memory of the world? Because a lot of people has forgotten the import of the position of gender, the position of women. And in this case, I would like to stress that this webinar activity is so important in embracing gender and the documentary heritage in the memory of the world. Why documentary heritage? It is very important that the National Archive position to be recognized by all people around the world. Because in the National Archive, we have the documentaries that is very important in the development of human being, not only in Indonesia, but also in the whole world. The last word I would like to say, I would like to thank the opportunity given to me to say a few words and to welcome this webinar on gender and documentary heritage in the memory of the world. And I wish you success, and I would like to follow the programs to the end, and hopefully all the Indonesian people, if they can listen to this, it is very important, especially for the scholars. Thank you very much, and I'm very sorry if there is any mistake that I have mentioned in my opening speech. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And for the Muslim, I like also to to express my my greeting. Happy Ramadan, and hopefully this fasting month will give us all happiness, not only today in the world, but also in the day hereafter. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih Bapak Arif Rahman atas sambutan yang telah Bapak sampaikan. Hadirin yang kami banggakan, selanjutnya adalah sambutan yang akan disampaikan oleh Pelaksana Tugas Kepala Arsip Nasional Republik Indonesia. Kepada Bapak Muhammad Taufik, kami persilakan.
Baik, terima kasih pembawa acara. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera bagi kita sekalian. Salam Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Yang terhormat Menteri Pemberdayaan Perempuan dan Perlindungan Anak, Ibu Gusti Ayu Bintang Darmawati. Selamat siang Ibu Menteri. Yang terhormat Kepala Lembaga Ilmu Pengetahuan Indonesia, Bapak Dr. Laksana Tri Handoko, yang saya hormati, terima kasih Pak Tri hadir. PLT Konservasi Andri, Ibu Murti Siswati. Yang terhormat Ketua Komite Indonesia, Bapak Dr. Budi Hidayat. Yang saya hormati Ketua Harian Komite Nasional untuk UNESCO, Prof. Arif Rahman. Terima kasih Pak Arif, tadi sudah menyampaikan beberapa hal kepada kita. Yang saya hormati Direktur Perpustakaan Universitas Leiden, Bapak Coach de Belden. Yang saya hormati Mr. Lim Mingkok dari UNESCO untuk Indonesia, untuk office di Jakarta, serta para narasumber, para undangan tamu sekalian, peserta webinar yang saya hormati dan saya banggakan. Marilah saya ingin mengajak kita semua untuk memanjatkan puji syukur kepada Tuhan Yang Maha Esa, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, bahwa kita hari ini dipertemukan dalam situasi pandemi, dan mudah-mudahan dalam keadaan sehat walafiat dalam kita mengemban tugas mulia ini. Oleh karena itu, Bapak Ibu sekalian, saya hari ini diberi kesempatan untuk menyampaikan beberapa hal. Mohon izin saya gunakan waktunya seefektif mungkin untuk saya sampaikan catatan-catatan yang sudah diberikan oleh panitia. Saya apresiasi terhadap kegiatan webinar siang hari ini. Tema kesetaraan gender yang bersumber dari arsip tidak saja memiliki signifikasi lokal, nasional, namun memiliki lebih luas lagi kepentingan internasional, tidak hanya domestik, bahkan internasional, yang memberikan dampak bagi peradaban dunia. Untuk itu, melalui webinar ini diharapkan meningkatkan kesadaran kesetaraan gender yang bersumber dari arsip secara otentik, juga membangun kerjasama internasional maupun domestik dalam mengajukan arsip bertema gender sebagai memory of the world. Bapak Ibu yang saya cintai dan saya banggakan, peserta webinar yang hadir pada siang hari ini. Sekali lagi, saya atas nama pimpinan dan seluruh komunitas kearsipan mengapresiasi dan memberikan penghargaan yang setinggi-tingginya kepada UNESCO yang menginisiasi program ini, yaitu program kesetaraan gender, untuk kita usulkan mendapatkan pengakuan melalui Memory of the World UNESCO. Bapak Ibu yang saya cintai dan saya banggakan, pada kesempatan ini tentunya kami Arsip Nasional sangat mendukung program ini dan berupaya dari berbagai arsip yang kita miliki. Dan ini adalah peluang dan momentum bagi ANRI khususnya, kami di Indonesia khususnya, dalam membangun public awareness terhadap kearsipan dan membangun public trust terhadap institusi atau kinerja-kinerja yang dilakukan individu, organisasi maupun bangsa, baik di level domestik maupun internasional. Bapak Ibu, kami juga mengapresiasi dan terima kasih kepada DP yang dikomandani oleh Pak Handoko melalui para peneliti dan bekerja sama dengan Arsip Nasional telah menghasilkan sebuah mozaik kesetaraan gender. Dan ini adalah modal dasar yang sangat penting dalam kita menggolkan proyek kita hari ini. Program ini harus segera diajukan dalam sebuah proses formal agar tergestasi melalui Memory of the World. Dan kita harapkan dari warisan dokumenter dalam membangun legasi dan peradaban umat manusia di dunia kini dan mendatang. Sebagai contoh, dalam kasus-kasus, dalam masalah gender, sebagai contoh adalah ibu kita Kartini. Sebentar lagi kita akan merayakan Hari Kartini tanggal 21 April, yang akan tidak lama lagi kita akan lakukan itu. Ini menunjukkan bahwa Indonesia sangat mengangkat masalah gender menjadi penting. Dan kita kenal dengan tulisan-tulisannya yang kita sering membaca, yaitu habis gelap terbitlah terang. Ini memberi inspirasi kepada kita semua, baik generasi yang akan datang dan seterusnya. Di samping itu, selain Kartini juga ada arsip-arsip Kongres Perempuan pertama tahun 1928. Inilah yang akan menjadi beberapa hal dalam usulan-usulan. Tentunya nanti kita akan sepakati apakah Kartini menjadi awal ataukah sekaligus nanti tim yang menentukan. Oleh karena itu, Bapak Ibu, saya sangat mendukung untuk kegiatan ini. Kartini kita tahu sebagai pejuang pendidikan perempuan, lintas generasi dan lintas negara. Kita tahu banyak yang dilakukan seorang Kartini, khususnya dengan negara-negara Eropa di sana, di Belanda. Nah, inilah yang harus kita perkuat dengan arsip secara otentik dan lengkap. Bapak Ibu, di samping ini juga Arsip Nasional sebagai informasi perlu saya sampaikan bahwa sudah mempersiapkan usulan kepada UNESCO tentang KTT JMB pertama yang sedianya sudah harus dilakukan tahun yang lalu, yang juga termasuk Arsip Soekarno, dan sedang dipersiapkan juga jalur rempah. 3 program ini sudah kami persiapkan, yang sedianya juga akan bersamaan mungkin nanti dengan gender ini. Bapak Ibu sekalian, kami sedang juga mengembangkan sebuah paradigma dalam rangka awareness dan trust tadi, bahwa arsip dalam 3 dimensi, bahwa gender, katakanlah Kartini, ya, Kartini di masa lalu seperti apa, Kartini hari ini mewakili Kartini masa lalu, dan konsep Kartini masa depan. Apakah relevansi ini harus kita jadikan sebuah pemikiran agar tiga dimensi kearsipan itu menjadi satu, menjadikan ruh dalam memperkuat usulan gender, kesetaraan gender tersebut. Itulah Bapak Ibu, sehingga ketika nanti kita sangat berharap semua ini dilakukan dengan baik dan berhasil, tentunya tidak cukup kita puas dengan keberhasilan memperoleh pengakuan melalui UNESCO, tetapi bagaimana arsip tersebut harus dihidup dan dihidup-hidupkan. Karena arsip adalah data, di dalam data ada informasi. Dalam informasi, siapa memperoleh informasi, dia mendapat pengetahuan. Jadi paradigma yang kita bangun adalah arsip adalah informasi dan sebuah pengetahuan, knowledge. Di mana kita harus mengurus, menjaga arsip-arsip itu bermanfaat untuk masyarakat dalam kita mencerdaskan masyarakat ke depan melalui arsip. Tentunya perlu dukungan dari Bapak Ibu sekalian. Akhirnya saya atas nama seluruh pimpinan Arsip Nasional dan seluruh komunitas kearsipan berterima kasih kepada UNESCO dan LIPI serta semua unsur yang terlibat dalam acara webinar siang hari ini, dan para sahabat baik itu dari Sarbika maupun dari negara-negara lain, saya ucapkan terima kasih. Dan saya mengajak mari kita bergabung dengan konsep Join Domination untuk menggulkan usulan-usulan yang sedang kita persiapkan tentang gender tersebut. Demikian, terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih Bapak Muhammad Taufik yang telah menyampaikan sambutan pembukaan pada hari ini. Bapak dan Ibu, sebelum memasuki acara berikutnya, kami turut menyapa kehadiran dari Bapak Muklis Paeni yang baru saja bergabung bersama kita pada hari ini. Kami ucapkan selamat datang Bapak dan selamat bergabung dalam acara webinar hari ini. Bapak Ibu yang kami hormati, acara kita lanjutkan kembali dengan sambutan oleh Kepala Lembaga Ilmu Pengetahuan Indonesia. Kepada Bapak Laksana Trihandoko, kami silakan.
Ya, terima kasih Mbak Berlian. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan, Salam, selamat siang. Good afternoon for all of you. The Excellency, the Minister of Women Empowerment and Child Protection, Ibu Igusti Ayu Bintang Darmawati, the Honorable, the Acting Chairman of the National Archive of the Republic of Indonesia, Bapak Taufik, my longtime colleague, the Chairperson of Indonesian National Committee for Memory of the World, Bapak Dudi Hidayat, also the Acting Deputy Chairman for Archive Administration at ANRI, Ibu Multi Seswati, and also the National Commission for UNESCO in Indonesia, the Chairman, Bapak Arif Rahman, the Director of the Leiden University Library in Netherlands, Mr. Kurt de Velder, Advisor for Communications, Information UNESCO Office, Regional Science Bureau for Asia and the Pacific in Jakarta, Mr. Lim, MOWCAP Bureau members, and also Southeast Asia Regional Branch of the International Council on Archive, Sarbika. So distinguished speakers, invited speakers, and participants, ladies and gentlemen. So it is a great pleasure for me on behalf of the Indonesian Institute of Sciences, LIPI, to welcoming you all in this event. And I'm very, very grateful that we can meet in good health on this occasion, even virtually. And this webinar, as already mentioned by Pak Dudi, with a theme on gender equality, archival documentary heritage, and memory of the world, has been held as a collaboration between National Archive of the Republic of Indonesia and LIPI through the Center for Scientific Data and Documentation. So actually, this webinar is a part of a Gender and Documentary Heritage project supported by UNESCO Office, Regional Science Bureau for Asia and Asia Pacific in Jakarta. So distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, The Memory of the Words, UNESCO, was established to preserve the assets of the nations across the world in a form of documentary heritages for its precious values. So the program has been designed to provide access to the world documented heritages and to raise the awareness of public on the importance of those documentary heritage. As already mentioned also by Pak Dudi and Pak Taufik. And the Indonesian Institute of Sciences, so LIPI, actually has initiated the Indonesian National Committee of the Memory of the World in, as I remember, 2006. Yeah? Actually, I was personally involved in that initiative that time. And so far, we have successfully proposed several documentary heritages to be considered as the memory of the world. Some of them have been approved by UNESCO. For example, the archive of the Dutch East India Company, that was registered in 2003, 2003, and also the ASEAN African Conference Archive in 2015, registered in 2015. Bapak Diponegoro, that is the autobiographical chronicle of Prince Diponegoro. That was he was a Japanese nobleman, Indonesian national hero, and pan-Islamist. The heritage, the document heritage was registered in 2013. Also, we have registered Borobudur Conservation Archive in 2017, the Indian Ocean Tsunami Archive, and also in the same year, and also La Galigo in 2011, and Nagara Kratagama, or description of the country in 2013, and also the Punji Manuscript in 2017. So we already had many approved document heritage to the UNESCO. And I do believe many more will come in the years to come, hopefully. So ladies and gentlemen, so far LIPI is in charge as project leader for managing the cooperation between the committee members, the Memory of the World of Indonesia. In particular, LIPI, in collaboration with the National Archive of the Republic of Indonesia and UNESCO office in Jakarta, have been carrying on research and identification of the archive available at the National Archive of the Republic of Indonesia, led by Bapak Taufik, related to the 3 gender equality markers, GEM of UNESCO, which are considered to also be potentially nominated in the list of the UNESCO Memory of the World Register. So this attempt actually is for the first time, LIPI as the primary source of the archive being the submitter to UNESCO. And the preparation of Memory of the World's nomination still needs a long step and careful research by experts. And I do hope everything will go well and the application would be successful, hopefully. Of course, we must not stop at submitting to the MOW, but we should thereafter also move forward to bringing the values of all documentary heritages to our community, as already stressed by Pak Dudi and also Pak Taufik. And this would be an important part of our efforts to create a literate and knowledgeable society in the future. So I hope, ladies and gentlemen, you all enjoy and obtain a valuable knowledge from this wonderful webinar. And last but not least, I would also like to extend my appreciation to National Archive of the Republic of Indonesia and the Indonesia National Committee for Memory of the World, and of course, UNESCO Jakarta Office for continuing support, tremendous support to make this webinar possible. So with Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, Now, so please allow me to declare that this webinar is officially open. Thank you very much. Have a pleasant and successful webinar and discussion. Stay safe and healthy wherever you are. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih Bapak Laksana Trihandoko yang telah memberikan sambutan kepada kita semua pada siang hari ini. Hadirin yang berbahagia, acara selanjutnya ialah keynote speech dengan tema The Policy of Gender Mainstreaming in Indonesia yang akan disampaikan oleh Menteri Pemberdayaan Perempuan dan Perlindungan Anak Indonesia. Yang terhormat Ibu I Gusti Ayu Bintang Darmawati, kami persilakan.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Shalom. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Tentunya salam sehat untuk kita semua. Yang saya hormati Bapak Ibu serta para narasumber dan moderator yang berbahagia. Mengawali kegiatan ini, marilah kita panjatkan puji syukur kehadirat Tuhan Yang Maha Esa, karena atas limpahan rahmat dan karunia-Nya lah kita dapat berkumpul pada hari ini dalam kegiatan International Webinar on Gender, Archival Documentary Heritage and Memory of the World. Merupakan kebanggaan bagi saya untuk dapat hadir dan terlibat dalam forum yang sangat luar biasa ini. Apresiasi saya sampaikan kepada LIPI, ANDRI, UNESCO, dan National Committee of Indonesia Memory of the World sebagai penyelenggara webinar. Semoga diskusi kita pada hari ini dapat membuka wawasan dan kepedulian dari berbagai pihak terkait pentingnya pengarusutamaan gender dalam warisan dokumenter di Indonesia. Bapak dan Ibu yang saya banggakan, perjuangan perempuan dalam meraih kesetaraan telah dilakukan sejak jauh sebelum kemerdekaan Indonesia. Perjuangan panjang ini berbuah manis hingga akhirnya komitmen atas kesetaraan bagi seluruh rakyat Indonesia, termasuk perempuan, dituangkan dalam Konstitusi Undang-Undang Dasar Negara Republik Indonesia 1945. Dengan dituliskannya prinsip kesetaraan ini dalam konstitusi, maka pemerintah pun wajib melakukan segala daya dan upaya untuk mewujudkannya. Secara kualitas maupun kuantitas, perempuan memang merupakan sumber daya manusia yang sangat berharga. Berdasarkan hasil sensus penduduk tahun 2020 dari jumlah penduduk Indonesia yang sekitar 270,2 juta jiwa, 49,42%-nya adalah perempuan. Tidak hanya di Indonesia, di tingkat global pun perempuan mengisi setengah dari populasi dunia. Dari segi kualitas, dunia modern yang saat ini kita nikmati tidak lepas dari campur tangan perempuan, itu pun dengan potensi yang belum termaksimalkan. Untuk itu, upaya pengarusutamaan gender memang sangat penting untuk dapat diterapkan pada setiap sektor pembangunan dan lapisan masyarakat. Karena dengan memaksimalkan potensi perempuan, dampak positifnya pun akan terasa bagi kita semua. Atas pentingnya agenda kesetaraan gender bagi seluruh masyarakat dunia, kesetaraan gender pun ditetapkan sebagai tujuan kelima dari Sustainable Development Goal atau tujuan pembangunan berkelanjutan. Agenda kelima ini sungguh spesial karena bukan hanya menjadi agenda yang dituju, tetapi juga sebagai bagian dari prinsip keseluruhan SDGs itu sendiri, yaitu no one left behind atau tidak ada seorang pun yang tertinggal. Sejalan dengan konstitusi kita, tentunya Indonesia turut mendukung tercapainya agenda ini. Secara resmi, Bapak Ibu sekalian, komitmen menuju kesetaraan gender dituangkan melalui Instruksi Presiden Nomor 9 Tahun 2000 tentang pengarusutamaan gender dalam pembangunan nasional, di mana mengamanatkan bahwa pengarusutamaan gender adalah strategi yang harus diterapkan ke dalam seluruh proses pembangunan nasional, baik di tingkat pusat, demikian juga di daerah. Bapak Ibu hadirin sekalian, untuk mendukung terwujudnya dokumentasi arsip yang responsif gender, UNESCO membuat kategori Gender Equality Makers pada program Memory of the World. Adapun kategori-kategori tersebut adalah sensitive gender, yaitu dokumen yang mengidentifikasi ketidaksetaraan gender tetapi tidak menyebutkannya secara langsung. Demikian juga responsive gender, yaitu dokumen yang mencakup berbagai program atau kebijakan yang menyasar pada isu ketidaksetaraan gender, dan transformasi gender, yaitu dokumen yang mempunyai dampak nyata atau mempengaruhi perubahan perilaku masyarakat dan yang transformatif. Merupakan keprihatinan kita bersama bahwa dalam daftar Memory of the World yang merupakan peninggalan arsip kebudayaan di wilayah Asia dan Pasifik, hanya ada 4 dari 155 Memory of the World yang berkaitan dengan pengarusutamaan gender dan keadilan gender. Adapun dari keempat dokumen tersebut, tidak satu pun berasal dari Indonesia. Padahal kiprah perempuan Indonesia dalam sejarah tidak dapat dipandang sebelah mata. Para pejuang perempuan tidak berhenti pada memperjuangkan hak-hak kaumnya saja, namun juga bersama laki-laki mengantarkan kita pada pintu gerbang kemerdekaan Indonesia. Para perempuan Indonesia juga telah berkiprah dan memberikan sumbangsih nyata bagi kemajuan bangsa, negara, bahkan dunia. Sehingga apa yang kita capai hari ini tentunya tidak lepas dari perjuangan para pendahulu kita, baik laki-laki maupun perempuan. Sayangnya, berbagai cerita dalam sejarah ini belum terlalu banyak digaungkan. Meskipun demikian, merupakan kebanggaan dan kabar baik bagi kita semua bahwa terdapat berbagai arsip yang berpotensi dapat dikategorikan sebagai peninggalan sejarah internasional yang dapat dikategorikan sebagai Gender Equality Makers untuk didaftarkan dalam Memory of the World, diantaranya arsip dari Raden Ajeng Kartini serta arsip Kongres Perempuan pertama. Bapak dan Ibu sekalian, Raden Ajeng Kartini yang dilahirkan pada tanggal 21 April 1879 merupakan salah satu pejuang perempuan yang memberikan dampak paling masif bagi kemajuan perempuan Indonesia hingga kini. Perjuangan Kartini dalam memajukan perempuan pribumi agar posisinya setara dengan laki-laki telah dimulai sejak dirinya berusia belasan tahun. Saat itu, Kartini mendirikan sekolah perempuan dan berhasil mengubah persepsi masyarakat yang masih menganggap bahwa perempuan, terutama perempuan yang berasal dari strata sosial yang rendah, tidak perlu bersekolah. Atas perjuangan tersebut, Kartini dianugerahi gelar pahlawan nasional pada tahun 1964. Sementara tanggal kelahirannya 21 April dirayakan sebagai Hari Kartini secara nasional. Tidak hanya diakui secara nasional, kisah Kartini menginspirasi hingga tingkat internasional. Kisah Kartini diceritakan di museum di Belanda, bahkan namanya dijadikan sebagai nama jalan di 4 kota besar di sana. Surat-surat korespondensi Kartini mengenai emansipasi perempuan dan masalah sosial lainnya, serta tulisan Kartini di surat kabar merupakan dokumen negara yang sangat berharga yang akan menginspirasi lintas generasi. Untuk itu, berbagai arsip Kartini ini menjadi sangat penting tidak hanya bagi Indonesia, tapi juga bagi dunia. Hadirin yang berbahagia, salah satu ujung tombak sejarah perjuangan perempuan lain di Indonesia adalah Kongres Perempuan Indonesia pertama di Yogyakarta. Dalam kongres ini, perempuan Indonesia menyatukan gagasan, pendapat, dan pemikirannya mengenai hak-hak perempuan dan peran mereka dalam perjuangan meraih kemerdekaan. Atas pentingnya peristiwa ini, tanggal 22 Desember diperingati sebagai Hari Ibu. Peringatan Hari Ibu dimaknai dengan perjuangan perempuan yang tidak hanya memajukan kaumnya, tetapi juga menjalankan peran sebagai ibu bangsa. Adapun peran sebagai ibu bangsa ini tidaklah terbatas pada ranah domestik saja, tetapi perempuan perlu diberikan kesempatan untuk berperan aktif dan mewujudkan potensinya dalam berbagai sektor publik. Memberikan kesempatan bagi perempuan untuk dapat berpartisipasi aktif, menyuarakan pendapatnya, dan memilih profesinya sendiri merupakan perwujudan dukungan bagi peran perempuan sebagai ibu bangsa. Bapak Ibu yang kami hormati, pada Kongres Perempuan Indonesia pertama dan kongres-kongres perempuan selanjutnya, peran perempuan di ranah publik mendapatkan pengakuan secara nasional. Para perempuan yang tergabung di dalam berbagai organisasi perempuan ini berkumpul untuk mendiskusikan solusi terhadap berbagai permasalahan yang dihadapi perempuan pribumi di masa itu, seperti mendesak adanya keterwakilan perempuan dalam pemerintahan, solusi terhadap perkawinan anak, hingga hak kepemilikan properti bagi perempuan. Tentunya arsip Kongres Perempuan Indonesia menjadi dokumen yang juga dapat menginspirasi dunia mengenai bagaimana perempuan yang dulunya dijajah tidak hanya oleh pemerintah kolonial, namun juga oleh konstruksi sosial dapat memerdekakan dirinya dalam berbagai lini kehidupan. Bapak Ibu yang kami hormati, adanya kesetaraan dalam dokumentasi sejarah dunia melalui program UNESCO, yaitu Memory of the World dengan kategori Gender Equality Makers, tentunya akan memberikan manfaat bagi kita semua. Selain berharga dari sisi pengetahuan sejarah, hal ini juga akan memberikan inspirasi, motivasi, dan pelajaran luar biasa dalam perjalanan panjang menuju kesetaraan gender yang masih jauh dari kata usai. Ditambah lagi akses terhadap partisipasi yang setara serta kontribusi dalam kehidupan budaya bagi perempuan dan laki-laki adalah hak asasi manusia yang harus dijamin pemenuhannya. Salah satu cara untuk memastikan adanya kebebasan berekspresi secara spiritual, intelektual, dan inovatif terhadap bangsa yang berbudaya adalah dengan mempelajari perjalanan sejarah terhadap para pendahulunya. Dokumen-dokumen sejarah yang berperspektif gender ini diharapkan akan mengajarkan generasi selanjutnya mengenai pentingnya partisipasi perempuan dalam ranah publik, memberikan akses terhadap perempuan dalam meraih berbagai kesempatan, serta memberikan motivasi bagi anak-anak perempuan kita untuk meraih mimpinya dan membantu perempuan lain untuk meraih mimpi mereka pula. Bapak Ibu yang saya banggakan, melalui webinar ini, saya berharap seluruh pihak yang hadir di sini dapat mendorong terciptanya arsip sejarah perempuan Indonesia dalam Memory of the World. Kesetaraan merupakan hak bagi setiap orang, dan hanya dengan menciptakan kesetaraanlah kesempatan akan terbuka, perempuan akan berdaya, dan Indonesia akan maju. Demikian beberapa hal yang dapat saya sampaikan. Perempuan berdaya, anak terlindungi, Indonesia maju. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Om Santi 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 Om. Namo Buddhaya.
Terima kasih Ibu Igusti Ayu Bintang Darmawati yang telah menyampaikan keynote speech pada siang hari ini. Hadirin yang kami banggakan, balas saatnya kita pada inti acara hari ini, yaitu pemaparan materi oleh para narasumber yang akan dipandu oleh Bapak Ade Gesit Pambudi, Magister Program Kearsipan dari Universitas Leiden, Belanda, yang saat ini menjabat sebagai Koordinator Kelompok Substansi Kerjasama. Kepada Bapak Ade Gesit Pambudi, kami silakan untuk mengambil alih acara.
Thank you, MC, and good day, ladies and gentlemen. But before I start this panel session of this seminar, I would like to inform you that today it is an honor for Indonesia to have panelists and participants not only from Indonesia, but also from abroad. So in this opportunity, I would like to greet our great colleague from among the participants from our country members of Southeast Asian branch of International Council on Archive, or SARBICA, from Malaysia, also from Myanmar, Philippines, Vietnam, and also from our honorable participant from the Regional Member of the World Committee for Asian Pacific, or MOCAP, yeah, Mr. Mitsuru Haga, and it's an honor for Indonesia to have all of you in this forum. So we would like to deliver our sincere thanks also for the remarkable participants from Indonesia, almost 1,000. Yeah, I see 1,000, more than 1,000, 1,072 until now. Yeah, from the state ministry, provincial and municipal government, universities, and other entities, which really show their enthusiasm to become the part of this international webinar. So, ladies and gentlemen, in this session, we shall discuss more about gender equality and archival documentary heritage and memory of the world with our 4 panelists, together with their different background of expertise. Nonetheless, please allow me to explain how this session will be. So every panelist shall have more or less 15 minutes to deliver their presentation. So after that, every 10 minutes after the presenter's talk, we already opened the chat room, so you can add your questions or your comments in the chat room. So then there will be, we will select the question, and later on we will select 3 to 5 of participants which are going to deliver their question directly in the panelist room. So he or she shall be promoted from the attendee room to the panelist room to deliver directly the question. For your information, just like the MC told you, we also have 5 t-shirts for 5 participants with the best question or remarks in the chat room that shall be delivered directly in the panelist room. So, we also provide a language interpretation for you, which already seen in the menu of the Zoom meeting room. So you can see the globe icon. So you can choose from Indonesia to English or English to Indonesia. Therefore, you could select the language that you choose by clicking the globe below your Zoom meeting room screen and select the language you need. Now, we shall begin the panel session. And ladies and gentlemen, since its launching in 1992, Memory of the World has become a program that focuses on preservation and universal access on world documentary heritage. It was created as a response to the threat of the documentary heritage, which are potentially destructed by natural and human factors in many countries around the world. UNESCO also supports gender equality in all aspects. They also consider that one of these areas which can improve the gender equality is through the Memory of the World program. Our first panelist is Dr. Lim Ming Kwok, who is a PhD in the mass communication, and also the advisor for communication and information sector from UNESCO Office of Jakarta. Today, he shall present about applying gender equality lens to the Memory of the World program. So, Pak Ming, are you already with us?
Yeah, terima kasih. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for inviting UNESCO and to collaborate with UNESCO on this particular topic on the issue of gender equality and the application of a gender lens on the issue and the topic of documentary heritage. And I'm very honored to be here. And I'm also very happy to have heard so many positive interventions from our previous speakers concerning the importance of gender equality, even when we are considering documentary heritage. And the fact that we are now fast approaching Kartini Day is also a recognition again of the importance that Indonesia has placed on both these areas of UNESCO's programming, which is the gender equality and also documentary heritage. And here today, I'm trying to combine the two of these and to show all of us perhaps what to make all of us understand a little bit better what are we referring to when we talk about applying the gender lens onto the documentary heritage. So I believe I can share my screen. Let me try to do that. Okay, I hope everyone can see my screen today. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to start by referring to a research that was done by UNESCO recently. And in this research, we found that which is something that our previous speakers have already pointed out, that only 4 out of 155 inscriptions from the Asia Pacific in our Memory of the World International Register and also the Asia Pacific Register contain the gender equality marker. So very little, only 4, and none of these, as have mentioned before, is from Indonesia. And which has been mentioned also by our previous speakers, that when we talk about the gender equality markers, they are gender sensitive, gender responsive, and also gender transformative. So from those 4 items that we have found, only 1 is gender transformative, 2 is considered as gender responsive, and 1 is gender sensitive. Now, let us look a little bit closer and deeper what these refers to. Now, the first item is actually the 1893 Women's Suffrage Petition from New Zealand. It is registered on our International Register for Memory of the World. The second one is the Archives of the Songmung Undong, the new community movement from Republic of Korea, also on the International Register. And the Chelpi Xingyin correspondence and remittance documents from overseas Chinese submitted from China. And this is on both the Memory of the World Asia Pacific Register as well as the international one. And finally, the fourth one is the archives and the manuscript from the Macau Kong Tak Lam Temple in Macau, China. And this is again on the Asia Pacific Register. So out of the hundreds of items that have been registered on the Memory of the World Register, only 4 items from this region has any contribution that can be detected to contribute to gender equality. Now, this is the photo of the 1893 Women's Suffrage Petitions. You can see that this is the format. And why was this important? This particular suffrage petition led to New Zealand becoming the first self-governing nation in the world where women won the right to vote. And because of this, it influenced other countries to have similar rights or to start the process to allow women to vote as well. So it was submitted to UNESCO in 1997 and inscribed in the same year. The next one, let's take a look at this one, which is the Archives of the Somong Undong, the new community movement from South Korea. And if we look at it, it contains the presidential speeches, government papers, documents from villages, letters, manuals, photographs, video clips related to the community movement from 1970 to 1979 in South Korea. So it was presented as a package, as an entire set of documentary heritage, and it laid a foundation that allowed the Korea to grow into a major economy from one of the poorest country back in the 70s and the 60s. So it was a really remarkable journey for the country, and it started with this process. And this was deemed as very important. And what was important for this, I will later show in a couple of slides when it relate to gender equality. And now let me just very quickly again, just show you this. This is the other one. And this particular document records firsthand contemporary livelihood of the activities of overseas Chinese in Asia, North America, and Oceania. So it is a very important document, and it has been shown to record the letters, the reports, account books, remittance receipts, resulting the communications between continents of overseas Chinese. And the fourth one is the archives and the manuscript of the Macau Kong Tak Lam Temple. And this was a big period, a long period. And it came all the way, it started all the way from the late Ming Dynasty all the way to 1980s. And they were organized by the Macau Buddhist College, and they started collecting the Buddhist document. And now there are over 6,000 items in the collection since they have started, including rare books, old photographs, celebrity letters, manuscript, painting, calligraphy. Again, this represents a collection, and not just a single item that was presented to the Memory of the World. And it is now on the Asia Pacific Register. So those were the items that we'll be looking at a little bit more closely. Now let me come back to why we are working on this issue. So why we talk about gender and gender equality specifically in documentary heritage. So for UNESCO, gender equality refers to the equal rights, responses, and opportunities for both women and men, girls and boys. So everybody has equal access and equal rights. Gender equality implies that the interests, needs, priority of women and men are taken into consideration, recognizing the diversity of different groups of women and men. It calls for both specific actions and integration of gender perspective into all our programs and activities. So on the one hand, gender equality by itself is very important. On the other hand, we recognize that just saying that it is important is not enough. We have to take specific actions, and we have to integrate gender perspective into all our programs. And that's where we are today. We are integrating a very important issue on gender equality into the work of Memory of the World and documentary heritage preservation. So from there, we go a little bit more deep, and we try to understand the terminology of gender equality markers. We are using gender equality markers. This is something that is being used by a lot of international organizations and other UN agencies, so not just UNESCO. So we have GEM 0, 1, 2, and 3. So it has already been mentioned, 0 means it doesn't contribute to gender equality, and 3 means it's gender transformative, having very significant contribution. So let me move on. Now, how do we apply gender equality markers to memory of the world? As we know, for those of you that have been following the nomination process for memory of the world, you know that we have many criteria, whether something is significant, whether something is rare, whether something is complete, whether it has significance to the society, to the country. So whether it is a very well preserved document that is unique in the world. So all those criteria we are trying to combine and consider in a very comprehensive manner together with gender equality markers. So it is a new way of using existing methodologies from both gender work and also documentary heritage preservation work, and to combine them and to see whether we can have all these memory of the world items, documentary heritage, but evaluate them with a gender lens. Now, to go yet another step deeper into understanding and combining the two concepts, we have documentary heritage that is gender sensitive. What does that mean? It means that it identifies and acknowledges the existing differences and inequality between men and women, but it doesn't address it. So that documentary heritage in question is just about acknowledging it and identifying it, but it doesn't contain any steps to go beyond that. And the data in it may or may not exist. It may or may not contain a gender analysis. And if we go to the second level, documentary heritage that is gender responsive. So this would include some kind of gender analysis. For example, they would say only 10% of women was working in this industry back in 1960s. So even a brief gender analysis would put them in a higher category than the previous one. It acknowledges the existing gender differences and inequality. It shows the inequality of in the participations and the benefits that women get and not get, for example. And then it describes situations or events that leads to specific policy and specific actions. Okay, I think I still have a bit of time. Okay, so, and then lastly, the transformative effect. So if we go even higher, has that piece of documentary heritage resulted in a big change in the society? We see from the example, now let's go to the women's suffrage petition. And this is the best example we have. To be honest, it's rare, but this is the best example that we have. So the impact of this document is that it inspired other countries outside of New Zealand to give women the vote on an equal basis with men. And not just in New Zealand, and not just for a few countries, but for many countries. And that was a very, very significant document and the impact it has on the world. Because we always think about documentary heritage as something that has great significance, universal outstanding values. So these are some of the things that we are looking at. To be fair, it's very rare, but we will see if we are able to find more such documentations. Now the second one, gender responsive. So it talks about the life of women in rural villages back in the 1960s in South Korea, and how they participated in the community movement. So it shows that women are stepping out from their traditional role and participating in a movement that was very, very revolutionary in the country and brought big changes to the country. So this is where it is. One of the things that it lacks is that it didn't lead to a specific, or at least during the nomination process, it was not clear whether the archives or the Samu Undong led to more significant changes for gender equality. It sort of noted and marked down and monitored and recorded the women's participation, but what's the next step? It wasn't clear. So that's why it's a 2, not a 3. And then again, this is the documentation, a lot of women overseas, because there was also a lot of women, Chinese women who worked overseas. And this was quite common at that time. And they had a lot of communication via letters. And interestingly, a lot of the letters were written by other people, so who can write. So this is also something very interesting. And lastly, this is a documentary heritage from Macau, and it also fulfilled the role of documenting the issues at hand and the life of women, the status of women, and what they did during that time. Again, it was a gem and a level 3 gem. So I end here, and I hope that this short presentation has provided some clarity and a better understanding on the connection between gender equality and documentary heritage, especially through the use of gender equality markers. And the goal here is to see whether we can identify documentary heritage. And by that, we mean print, photographic material, audio-visual material, recorded soundtrack, all sorts of different documentary heritage that has both the values of memory of the world as well as contributing to gender equality and women's empowerment. So it's the challenge that we have to find a documentary heritage that fulfills both these categories as our ultimate goal. But of course, just simply unearthing and making awareness, highlighting documentary heritage that highlights and supported gender equality is something that is very beneficial in itself. And just going back to the original slide that we have talked about, only 4 items out of 155 in Asia Pacific. So we can do better. And I hope that our exercise now with the support of Lipi and Henri will be able to do that. Thank you. And back to you, moderator.
Yes, thank you very much. And very interesting presentation from Pak Lim. So yeah, we already told that there are four documentary heritage, especially the International Memory of the World Register and also the Regional Memory of the World Register from New Zealand, particularly from the that correspond with GEM 3 or gender transformative, which really make an impact in the gender equality in the, especially in the New Zealand, related with a women's suffrage petition of 1893. And yeah, later on we will have the question and the discussion session. So we will continue to the next presenter. So ladies and gentlemen, in late 2020, Indonesian Institute of Science, in collaboration with the National Archive of the Republic of Indonesia and UNESCO Office Jakarta, conducted a research and identification of archive holding in our custody that categorized under 3 gender equality markers of UNESCO, in which they could also potentially be nominated for the inscription in the International Memory of the World Register of UNESCO. The program encountered various obstacles during the preparation and implementation since it was conducted during the pandemic COVID-19. However, in February 2021, the program has reached the first term of the project, which resulted a list of gender equality-related archives that categorize under the gender equality markers of UNESCO. This list of archives shall become an important guide for historians and scholars to create a historical narrative that based on the primary source. Our next presenter, Dr. Kurniawati Hastuti Dewi, who is a PhD in area study, especially on gender in South Asia, East Asia, with dissertation about the rising of female political leaders in Indonesia from Graduate School of Asian and African Area Studies, ASAFAS, Kyoto University of Japan. She is senior researcher at Center of Political Research in Indonesian Institute of Science. She also currently holds the position of Secretary General of ASEAN Association of Women's Studies. She shall present a topic about the gender studies, scientific research on the gender equality archives in Indonesia. So, Ibu Kurnia.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we begin now, Pak?
Ya, silakan Bu.
Okay.
Langsung saja.
Thank you very much, Pak Gesit, for the time given to me, and it is an honor for me to be able to join these important events, the international webinar on gender equality. Thank you very much. So I would like to share my PowerPoint. Allow me to share the PowerPoint. Mohon izin untuk berbagi PowerPoint. So my presentation today is about gender studies and scientific research on gender equality archive in Indonesia. The material is based on my discussion as well with the Professor Erwiza S. Erman, respected scholar from Indonesian Institute of Sciences, which is also part of the team. First of all, I would like to acknowledge that this material is not possible without collaboration between LIPI team, UNRI team, and the UNESCO teams. It is not possible to mention all names one by one, but it is because of our effort, energy, and time that we can present our result today. So the aim and the scope on the output of the presentation today is actually part of the starting point of long road to nomination of 1 or 2 documentary heritage on gender equality in Indonesia. It aims to identify the gender documents in the National Archive of Republic Indonesia, or UNRI, that could be categorized under at least one of the 3 gender equality marker or GEM as a documentary heritage that can be nominated for a UNESCO Memory of the World. And what is the scope? According to our discussion, because there are huge amounts of archive, and then we will easily get lost from the amount of the archive, then we have to decide the scope. Then we decided the archival document that we're looking for is from 20th century or early 90s to Indonesian independence. This is because this period is the growth of Indonesian women movement along with the national movement. And this is also the period of politic ethics during the colonial era. And this is important milestone for Indonesian women movement. And then the output for this activity, which I would like to present, is the listing of potentially gender documentary heritage under UNESCO MO nominations teams. And then the timeline of observation between UNRI and LIPI teams has been conducted from October 2020 to February 2021. So it is only 5 months. So we're starting with an initial focus group discussion and the archival searching, and then workshop on the classifying of GEM, and then finalized with the mini seminar on February 2021. So today's presentation is actually an expose to what we have found during the 5 months working together. And then the methodology to identify the archive in UNRI is using the historical and gender perspective approach by document tracings. We deciding 6 steps to do the research and observations. Initially, we do creating a gender historical timeline of Indonesia from 1980s to now. We have a discussion with gender expert. And then second one, we deciding the timeline of the archive. Because as we understand a huge amount of archive, and then we get easily lost in the jungle of archive. Therefore, we need to deciding the timeline of the archive. And then number 3 is researching archive related to the gender equality. And the number 4, classifying the archive in the specific themes. And the number 5, and the number 6, listing a potentially documentary heritage on gender equality. And the 6 is categorizing the archive according to gender equality marker by UNESCO. So basically, number 5 and number 6 is those which I would like to present today. And then this is the archival forms in the archive that being used to search the document on gender equality. Quite a lot, 28 lists, and number 26, collection of Cartini, we have special attention on this. And then how we classify the archive according to UNESCO Memory of the Words. According to my reading, understanding, and the discussion, the UNESCO Memory of the Words give us a hint. Actually, the identification and categorization of records should be in-depth and not too broad. UNESCO emphasizes on completeness and depth of archive information and not the quantity of the record. And it leads to the complete historical information, the more significant the marker of gender equality will be. So we deciding to be able to find the pattern of which document or which archive which is telling us the in-depth data on gender equality, and then we classify the supporting document to support the main archive document. And then this is the result, the listing of potential documentary heritage on gender equality. Category 1, we category on culture, women, and politics. It fits into this category is Archive Indonesian Women Congress from 1928 to 1941 actually. However, according to the searchings, it's only available until 1935. And then the supporting document, we found various documents from Kowani, and then from the story of Razok Metzer in the Volkskrant, and etc. So all these supporting documents will be used to enhance the narrative about Indonesian Women Congress, the first to the fourth. And the second one is the education, women, and politics. Fits into this category is letter of Raden Ajeng Kartini. And then we found various supporting documents as well on the importance of education for pribumi women during the colonial period. And then we also found some important books on Kartini in Perpusnas. So Andri holds Kartini collection from Sercia Abedanon, copy from KITLV. From a total of 360 numbers of the archive in the catalog, Andri has 237 archive numbers. So this is a very good archive numbers, and then good material, good documentation for us to starting digging more data and develop deeper narrative. So how these two documents fits into the GEM UNESCO is explained by Mr. Min. So according to my experience and observations, a gender analysis continuum can be understood like this. Basic is gender exploitations or gender exploitative. It's up to into gender blind or gender neutral. And then gender sensitive, in which community or institution has kind of gender awareness. Gender responsive, in which the institution or community has a gender analysis, which is lead to recommendation. And gender transformative, in which institution or community has an evidence-based gender policy to create a better changes. And in fact, this is resonate to the gender equality marker by the Memory of the World UNESCO. As explained earlier, UNESCO categorized gender equality marker into at least 4, GEM 0, GEM 1, GEM 2, and GEM 3. GEM 1 is gender sensitive. It identifies and acknowledges existing differences in equity between women and men. However, it doesn't address the inequality. GEM 2 or gender responsive, it acknowledges existing gender differences in inequality. The record describes historical events that lead to specific policy and action which address the inequality and result in improvement. According to our suggestion and observation and research, Indonesian Women Congress document the first to four, is actually fits into Gem 2, gender responsive, although the quality of the archive is not yet complete. But the discussion in the first Indonesian Women Congress in 22 December 1928, various discussion rising about the concern on polygamy, on child marriage, and also on the women's suffrage. And it was continued in the Third Congress of Women in Bandung in 1938. It was a recommendation on an inquiry into the suffrage for Indonesian women. And continue in the Fourth Congress in Semarang in 1941. It is important milestone because it's requesting active suffrage, the right to vote and the right to be voted for Indonesian women in the local council, which is then brought in the Volksrat meeting in September 1941. It is finally was granted, but because of the Japanese occupation in 1942, then the Volksrat and all the city council was dissolved. And Gem 3 category, gender transformative, it acknowledges not only the existing differences and inequality, but also underlying causes of those inequality. This encryption contains record that result in policy and initiative which challenge the existing discriminatory policy and practices that influence radical changes in history and society. We think that Cartini letters and related documents to support fits into this Gem 3 gender transformative category. According to the archival record in ANRI, we found the Cartini letter from 1901 to 1914, letter written by Cartini's sister, article about Cartini, picture of Cartini tombs, and then picture of Cartini school in Semarang, in Bogor, and most importantly, a letter of Cartini's to Abendanon. Reading the Cartini letters, I can feel how her concern about the importance of education for the girl. In 12.5 years, Cartini was forced to experience seclusion or pengitan and experience forced marriage or arranged marriage at the time. And then they have to leave the school. And through reading the Cartini letter, I can see how sad she is, asking help from the Abendanon so that she can be able to study in the Dutch, and then how she has an intimate correspondence with the Abendanon, saying that her father actually supporting her dream to become a teacher. And finally, her husband also supporting Cartini's effort to develop Cartini School with initial 7 pupils in Rembang. It is a letter to Abendanon in 1903. And the huge impact is because once Cartini died in 1904, Mr. Jaya Abendanon also then published the letter in 1911 and worldwide acknowledged as important development in Indonesian, what we call Indonesian thoughts, Indonesian women thoughts about pribumi at the time. So how is these two potential gem document as memory of the world, or warisan ingatan dunia? According to our observations, memory of the world should has these two, the word significance and universal value. Let's see. The potential gem 2 as our gender responsive could be an Indonesian Women Congress document, especially the first, third, and fourth, because it addressed basic political rights like women's suffrage right, women's right to vote and to be voted, which is already speak since the first Congress in 1928. And this is universal value because it resulted in universal suffrage, even though it takes 1928 to 1941 and only in Women's right in 1941. But actually this is not yet applicated because in 1942 it was Japanese occupation coming to Indonesia. But universally and worldwide, the first Indonesian Women Congress has become source of knowledge of various scholars like Susan Blackburn, and then this one is important books on Indonesian women's movement, and I myself also using various materials on Indonesian Women Congress for the first of all to write a book in paragraph edition about women's political rights in Indonesia. So this is important material as well. And then my higher suggestion or higher support is to potentially memory of the Gem 3, gender transformative, is Cartini letters. This has word significance because Cartini letters become the source of knowledge or discussion worldwide about the woman condition and thoughts in the Dutch. It's indeed translated with various languages across the world, Malay, English, French, and etc. And it has universal and transformative value because Cartini itself, because of her experience, she wants to advocate education for girls, meaning it's achieving education for all, woman and girl, boy and girl. And this is not stopping only in thoughts or talking, but also doing an action, because then she's developed girls' school at home around 1903 or 1902. And this is also inspired the development of Cartini School in 1912. And then reading various magazines in 1920 to 1940, I found various organizations, women organizations in Indonesia also used the Cartini life and inspiration in their magazine. And this is the Cartini letters translated in Indonesia, cooperation between KLTFL Jakarta and Indonesian Institute of Sciences in 1989. And in this, Cora Fredidistus, respected scholar on Indonesian women movement and struggle, also have special attention on Cartini letters. In this edition, published initially in 1960, but this one is translated in Indonesia in 2017. So, impact of Cartini's letters and action worldwide, we cannot deny. For us, it is not just a letter. It is a life history. It is related to daily politics, and it is related to resonate to our current problems. Education is daily politics. Forced marriage is daily politics. Seclusion or pingitan is daily politics. So archive or RK Cartini letters and action has extraordinary influences on Indonesian women movement. In Cartini role in empowering girl and woman through education is no denying. And then the role of woman and woman empowerment, because of her action to develop the school for girl, has had an impact for society. And this is a strong component of memory of the world according to gender equality marker. And then according to us, Cartini letters saw an engagement of Indonesian women at the time to global idea of emancipation or global idea of women progress, inspired by the connection with the European world. Yeah. Cartini also read some books on women movement in the world, in European, also correspondent with Mrs. Abendanon, intimately sharing the voices from the Prubumi woman to the, Mrs. Abendanon. So this is important and interesting part of dialogue between Indonesian women at the time with Mrs. Abendanon from the Dutch East India. And then, as explained earlier, Indonesian government also already mentioned Cartini as one of the national hero, and then become inspiration for various educational institutions, even created Cartini film in Indonesia in 2017. And then each year we always remaining the value of Cartini struggle, whether the progress of Indonesian women currently is achieved or not. Is it should be renewed, or we should be reflected, or what kind of the progress we have. So usually various events coming during the Cartini commemoration day. And then production of knowledge about Cartini worldwide. And then this collection of Cartini is not only available in ANRI, but also in National Library of Indonesia, KITLV Leiden, and Rich Archive Den Haag, and private collection. This all proven that Cartini letters have worldwide acknowledgement and worldwide significance. So the recommendation for this stage of identification, we have to acknowledge the limitation, because so far the document is only those which are available in ANRI, so there is limited. Perhaps if we can widening the scope of collaboration across Indonesia, perhaps we can find another potential documentary heritage on gender equality. For example, in West Sumatra, we have this Rahma El Junisia, prominent figure who founded the Niah Putri School in Padang Panjang. And then, for example, we agree on nomination. We suggest that Cartini letters is very strong to be nominated. And in the nomination, perhaps we can think collaboration with the region of Rembang, because Cartini Girls School was initiated in Rembang in 1903. And then things about the economical impact for the region of Rembang and the community, because when it is declared as memory of the world, then people around the world will probably coming into Rembang as well. And probably because the amount of the document, as we mentioned and found with the colleagues from ARDRI, the majority document of Cartini is held by KITF in the Netherlands. So joint nomination is very good opportunity and very good suggestion, because it's the Cartini letter is manifestation of friendships between Indonesia and the Netherlands to the Cartini handwriting letters published by Mr. J.H. Abendanon in 1911. It is life experience, it is personal experience, and expressing the thoughts of Indonesian women at the time, but it resonates with various problems we having now, like child marriage, like education for women, education for girls. And actually, through the Cartini letter, we have these two dialogue or mutual understanding. Letter is writing because to someone. It is not writing because of the monologue, but it is a dialogue, two sides between Cartini and her friends Abendanon at the time. So in the current days, it's good to have this joint nomination to strengthening the friendship between Indonesia and the Netherlands. So I think that's our presentation, and then thank you very much for attention, and I'm sorry for any mistake we made. Thank you very much. Pak Gesit, I give it back to you.
Yes, terima kasih banyak atas presentasi. Thank you very much, and very nice presentation by Bu Kurniawati that explained about how the result of the identification and research on gender equality related archives in the repository of National Archives of Indonesia. It also results in significant finding that two collection of in ANDRI, especially the Cartini archives, and the first Women Congress is related with the Germ 3 and Germ 2 categorization that were made by UNESCO. So, and now we are continuing to our next presenter from National Archive of the Republic of Indonesia. So, ladies and gentlemen, Indonesia holds an enormous number of archival documentary heritage that records the memory about the role of the woman in the country. As an essential memory institution that preserves documentary heritage in Indonesia, ANDRI, or National Archives, that holds an enormous collection since the 17th century until nowadays. ANDRI also involved in the inscription of several Indonesian documentary heritage on the International Memory of the World Register. One of the most important techniques that carried out by ANDRI is joint nomination, which is a format that's strongly recommended by UNESCO, because this is in accordance with UNESCO goals of disseminating knowledge and building cooperative relationship between communities and countries. Our next presenter is Ibu Multi Siswati. She currently holds the position as the acting Deputy Director General for Archive Administration in National Archive of the Republic of Indonesia. Today, she will present a topic about joint nomination, enhancing collaboration on nomination of gender equality archives for the inscription on International Memory of the World Register of UNESCO. So, Ibu Multi, kami persilahkan, Bu. Bisa di-unmute dulu, Ibu. Ya, silakan, Bu.
Baik, terima kasih Mas Adi Gesit. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Yang pada kesempatan ini, marilah bersama-sama kita panjatkan puji dan syukur kehadirat Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, di mana saya diberikan kesempatan untuk hadir dalam webinar Kesetaraan Gender pada siang hari ini. Dan tentunya salam sehat untuk kita semua. Ibu dan Bapak yang saya hormati, izinkan saya untuk men-share PowerPoint presentasi pada kesempatan siang hari ini. Seperti yang sudah disampaikan oleh Mas Adi Gesit bahwa saya mendapatkan tugas untuk penominasian budaya, memperkuat kolaborasi dalam nominasi arsip kesetaraan gender pada Register Internasional MOW UNESCO. Arsip Nasional Republik Indonesia adalah lembaga kearsipan berbentuk pemerintah non-kementerian yang melaksanakan tugas negara di bidang kearsipan yang berkedudukan di ibu kota negara sesuai dengan Undang-Undang 43 tahun 2009 tentang kearsipan. Di Arsip Nasional ini menyimpan kasana-kasana arsip, yaitu kita menyimpan arsip kertas sebanyak 30.370,70 meter linear, poster 330.
And for the poster archives, we have 336 sheets of posters, and maps we have 131,72,000 maps, and photographs, films, 59,035 reels, microfilm, we have 14,502 rolls. We have microfiche, 14,262, and sound recording. We also have this quality, and the video 25,774. We have optical disc archives 16,363, and vinyl we have 101, flash disk we have 2 pieces, and electronic files of archives we have 390. The periodization of the archives that is kept in National Archive of Indonesia, starting from the period of POC, 1602, 18,000, and the period of Dutch colonial government is from 1800 until 1942. And the British interregnum British occupation in Indonesia archives is from 1811 until 1816. And for the Japanese occupation archives, we have the period of archives from 1942 until 1945, and the period of Indonesian independence starting from 1945 until today. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the mechanism of accessing the archives of National Archive of Indonesia, you can have it through the online inventories at the UNRI's website, and also through the reading room. And the archives related to gender equality at National Archive of Indonesia, we have 17 record groups. We have 308 inventory numbers, and also in 4 formats: papers, photograph, video, and audios that have been mentioned by the speaker just now. We have identified that through the collaboration works with LIPI that have been just mentioned just now. And the archives related to gender equality in UNRI, the first one is about the archives on the first Women Congress in 1928, and also the Cartini Archives. The second one is Cartini Archives. And I would like also to state that the documentary heritage of Indonesia in the International Registry of Memory of the World UNESCO, we have 8 Indonesian documentary heritage. The first one is the VOC Archives. It was nominated in 2003, and it was inscripted in 2004. The nominators were Netherlands, India, Indonesia, South Africa, and Sri Lanka. And the second one is the Archives of Lagaligo. We nominated the archives in 2010, and it was registered in 2011. And the third one is Bapak Diponegoro. It was nominated in 2012 and it was registered in 2013. And fourth is Negara Kertagama, nominated 2012 and inscribed in 2013. And the fifth one is the Asian African Conference, nominated in 2014 and inscribed in 2015. And it was nominated by 4 countries, supported by 4 countries. And also the sixth one is the Borobudur Conservation Archives, nominated in 2014, inscribed in 2015. And also the Punji Manuscript, nominated in 2016 and inscribed in 2017. It was nominated by Indonesia, Cambodia, Netherlands, Malaysia, and United Kingdom. And the eighth one is Indian Ocean Tsunami Archives. It was nominated in 2016 and inscribed in 2017 and nominated by Indonesia and Sri Lanka. Of 8 documentary heritage that have been registered at UNESCO, we keep two Memory of the World UNESCO here. These are the certificate of the registration of archives as Memory of the World UNESCO. We take some of the examples that that you can take a look at from my presentation from the certificate from UNESCO. Next is Archives of Asian African Conference. Date of inscription is 9 October 2015. And the next one is the Tsunami Archives, Indian Ocean Tsunami Archives. Date of inscription is 30 October 27. And Borobudur Conservation Archives on 30 October 2017. And the next one, we would like to have a collaboration in national level. We have the program of Memory of the Nation program. The objective is to register the archives.
To register archives with national significance and to certify them as Memory of the Nation in National Register. Second one is to promote any effort to preserve the preservation and provision of universal access on archive as cultural documentary heritage. The last one is to nominate the archives in National Register with outstanding universal value and international significance to international Memory of the World Register. And we do collaboration with the central government, with ministries or institutions, state-owned enterprises, and public and universities. And we also do a collaboration with provincial and municipal government, who creating agencies and archival institutions in provincial government, creating agencies and archival institutions in municipal government. And we have also non-government entities, consists of local kingdoms, individuals, and others. That's before is a collaboration, national collaboration, and now is international collaboration. According to Article 37, Law of the Republic of Indonesia, number 43 of 2009 on records and archive administration, it stated that archival institutions may establish a cooperation with the creator of records and archives and may establish a cooperation with foreign institutions. A joint nomination on the inscription on the International Memory of the World Register of UNESCO. For the International Register, there is a limit of 2 nominations per country in each 2-year cycle, except for joint nomination, where there are no limitation on the number of nominations accepted for assessment. UNESCO fosters international cooperation. For the foreign partners, we do collaboration. We have collaboration with governmental memory institutions and also non-governmental agencies. And then the next nomination plan. The next nomination plan are that the National Archive of the Republic of Indonesia will do is our Sukarno Archives to build the world anew, the archives of the first non-aligned movement summit meeting, Spice Root Archives, and also gender equality related archives. Sukarno Archives to build the world anew is Sukarno's idea, the first president in Indonesia, that he delivered in a
in the General Assembly of the United Nations on September 30 in New York, United States of America. The speech is Sukarno's idea on the anti-colonialism and anti-imperialism, on the solidarity among the nations, and reconstruction of the United Nations to achieve the equality of the nations in the world. And all of these ideas is written in Sukarno's speech, and the documents include 33 pages of letters, and it is kept in National Archive of Indonesia in Jakarta. And the archive is nominated as the documentary heritage because it keeps the information and perspective or the ideas of the figure who developed the nation at that time. And the next is the archives of the first non-aligned movement summit meeting. And the first non-aligned movement was held in Beograd, Yugoslavia, and it was initiated by India, Indonesia, Arab, and also Yugoslavia. The meeting signs the meeting between the third world country in order to decrease the world tension at that time, and also to develop the world peace that at that time. And the archives of the first non-aligned movement is the archives fund that is involved 235 photos and textual archives. And this is the memory collective of the 5 initiators, 20 participants, and 3 observers countries. And it also can be categorized as the memory of the world because it has universal significance of the leader of the nations at that time in order to contribute effectively to the world peace and to the security and the collaboration among the nation, the freedom and the equality, social justice in order to raise the world civilization at that time. For the nomination of the archives, Indonesia also will nominate the Spice Root Archives. The Spice Root Archive is the documentary heritage containing the activities and the records on various media regarding the spice routes. And the archives has important significance to the world, and it also can be categorized as the memory of the world. The archives is about the location of the spice route trading, the spice trading, and also about the network of the harbor among all of the countries that held the spice routes trading and spice route trading. And the next one is Cartini. Cartini related to the gender equality archives. And we would like to have a joint nomination between Indonesia and Netherlands on nominating these archives. The Cartini Archives is the documentary heritage with the category of gender transformative, as has been explained before by Mrs. Kurnia from Indonesia, Indonesian Institute of Sciences. We would like to invite Netherlands as our partner to have a joint nomination on this Cartini Archives. So on this opportunity, I hope that Netherlands as our partner to also nominate Cartini Archives as the Memory of the World of UNESCO. I think that's all my presentation today. Thank you very much for your attention. Peace be upon you.
Beliau mengucapkan terima kasih kepada Ibu Muti Siswati, the Acting Director General for Deputy Director General for Archives Administration, National Archive of the Republic of Indonesia, for interesting presentation about the power of joint nomination and how it impacts on the inscription of the International Memory of the World Register of UNESCO. Yes, and because of time, I'm going to sweep it to the next presenter. So, ladies and gentlemen, the empowerment of gender equality had begun since the colonial period. The early 20th century became the turning point on the struggle on the gender equality in the colonial state. This activity was recorded not only in the archives in Indonesia, but also abroad, which become the shared documentary heritage, particularly between Indonesia and the Netherlands. Our next presenter is Mr. Kurt de Belder, who is the 25th University Librarian of Leiden University, also Director of the Leiden University Libraries and of the Leiden University Press. He is also a frequent keynote speaker and has presented papers at numerous conferences in the United States, Europe, Africa, and Indonesia on topics relating with digital libraries, innovation, changing libraries, open access, open science, and e-publishing. He was educated at the Free University of Brazil and at the University of California, Berkeley. Today, she shall present about Leiden Library Collection and, of course, the special gender equality regulated documentary heritage in their repository, the Cartini Archives. So, Mr. Kurt de Belder, please.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm very honored to participate in this seminar, and I would also like to thank all of the organizers for organizing this webinar. It's, of course, a wonderful opportunity. In less than a week, it will be Cartini Day, and to present a short paper about the Cartini letters. Perhaps we can start the presentation. And we go to the next slide. Yes. So at Leiden University Library and at Leiden University, and you can go to the next slide, one of our specialties is, of course, Asian studies and using also the collections that we have on Asia for research and teaching. Leiden considers itself to be one of the global centers for Asian studies, and we also really have as a strategy to collaborate very closely with our Asian partners, and of course, including very much our partners in Indonesia, which are, of course, LIPI, ANRI, the National Library, but also many other universities. Let's go to the next slide, please. For that purpose, we also established an Asian library in 2017, and we brought together a whole group of collections as well from Leiden University itself as from other large libraries, including the KIT Library in Leiden and the KIT, the Royal Institute for the Tropics in Amsterdam. So all of these collections were brought together and are now the Asian Library at Leiden University. Next slide, please. One of the strategies we have is to make as much of our special collections available online, to digitize them and to make them available worldwide. Of course, that is a process of many years. We have now made available about 500,000 digital objects from our special collections. And what is important is that we are one of the founding members of the IIIF, the International Image Interoperability Framework, which really changes the way researchers can use digital images. They can annotate them, they can bring images from different heritage institutions together. And so far we have made 200,000 of our digital objects available via IIIF. We try, if we don't have any copyright limitations, we make our images available in open access, which means that the whole world, and of course also in Indonesia, people can gain access to all of these images. And we make also high resolution images available for download. So in that way, we really try to support new possibilities for research as Leiden University libraries. Next slide, please. So one of the things that has already been mentioned by a number of speakers is that international collaboration is very important, and we really strive for that, not just for the UNESCO Memory of the World, but also beyond the UNESCO Memory of the World. I've highlighted 3 MOW inscriptions, which are in part in Leiden and also in part in Indonesia or in some other Southeast Asian countries. A number of these things have already been mentioned. Of course, La Galigo, which was a collaboration between Leiden and the collection museum La Galigo in Makassar. So both documents were inscribed. Next slide, please. And everything I will show to you is available digitally. You can access that yourself. And I've also included the URL at the bottom of the screen so you can gain access to all of these documents yourself. So we have we have digitized La Galigo, the holdings in Leiden completely. So all of these documents are available also in Indonesia. Next slide, please. So the other one was, of course, about Diponegoro, which was, again, a collaboration between the National Library of Indonesia and, in this case, KITLV. But again, now the documents are in Leiden at Leiden University Libraries. Next slide, please. And then finally, the Punji Manuscripts, a nomination, a joint nomination, again, wonderful collaboration between the National Library of Indonesia, National Library of Malaysia, National Library of Cambodia, and Leiden University Libraries. Next slide. And again, these materials are available online, so you can get access to all of the Punji Tales manuscripts at Leiden when you go to these sites. Next slide, please. When I looked at gender documentary heritage and MOW, I looked at it not in a very in-depth way. I basically looked at, well, what is available in the Netherlands, which is inscribed in Memory of the World. And we have in total 16 inscriptions, 3 of which are at Leiden. And when I look at what is the heritage mainly related to women, one is the Alette Jacobs papers. Alette Jacobs was a suffragette, made a major contribution to equal rights for women in the Netherlands. So that is definitely which has been explained before, a Gem 3 transformative archive. And also the diaries of Anne Frank. Anne Frank was a Jewish young Dutch woman who was killed in a concentration camp at a very young age, but she kept diaries. And I would imagine if one would research that more thoroughly, it would definitely be a responsive Gem 2 level inscription. So, but nevertheless, also in the Netherlands, from the 16, only 2 have this gender equality marker in my estimation. Again, that is not based on in-depth research. When I looked again with that same view on the heritage inscribed in Memory of the World from Indonesia, total 8, and related to women 0. So it is really high time, I think, and I'm very happy, therefore, that this webinar has been organized, and also the research that is taking place in Indonesia about this, that we are talking about changing this situation. Next slide, please. And then I come, of course, to the Cartini Archive, which is mainly a Keitel V archive, but now held at Leiden University Libraries. These are the original documents, so not copies of the documents. I've selected a few images, of course, well-known images of Cartini and her sisters, Rukmini, Kardina, but also Cartini with her husband, Raden Adipati Jojo Nanandigrat, if I pronounce that correctly, and my apologies if I don't do that. But these are, of course, important people in Cartini's life. Next slide, please. Of course, her father, an important figure with whom she talks about her father in her letters, and of course, her son, who was born on the 13th of September 1904, a few days before Cartini died. Next slide, please. And then we've talked already about Abendanon, and here you see the wedding picture of Mr. Abendanon and his wife, Rosa Manuela Mandri. And you see her on the right-hand side when she's a bit older in 1925. And she was, of course, the person who was very close to Cartini. And the correspondence is mainly between her and Cartini. She's a few decades older than Cartini when they start writing letters to one another. Next slide, please. So here is one of these letters. It's a letter from, again, Cartini to Rosa, and to indicate the very close connection they have, Cartini addresses Rosa, and all of the letters are written in Dutch. She says, "Mijn liefste goede engel," which means my dearest good angel. And so there is a very close bond between the two women. And Cartini writes about her father that she really is talking to her father to give her permission to choose her own path of life. And she knows that Rosa and her husband will be very happy if that happens. And of course, Cartini will be very happy also. She even says, to overcome or to die, there is no middle road. And now that the consent is complete, father has given her permission, I can follow the call of my heart to find my own work and to make my life useful to others. So this is, for that period in 1900, a very bold statement, not only in Indonesia, but it would be very bold in the Netherlands also. And if, she said, if I had not encountered so much opposition, experienced and known so much misunderstanding, so much sorrow in my still so young life, I would not have become what I am now, somewhat more than the average. So these are quotes I translated from the original letter. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is a letter again from Cartini to Rosa in 1903. So she addresses her now as mijn liefste eigen moedertje, my dearest own sweet mother. So again, you see that connection is very close. And now she talks about the wedding that will take place in 2 weeks. And she sends a number of photographs of the school, of the pupils. And she discusses the role she will take on with regard to her new or her to-be husband. And she says, I have no intention whatsoever to warm up to housework chores for which I have no talent. And she talks about an agreement she made with her husband. And she says, I will try to be a good mother for his children. And in exchange, there is literally an agreement that I do this and then I'll do that. He will make it possible to accomplish that, what I wish with heart and soul. If he doesn't adhere to this, then I'm also discharged of my promise. So there is really a mutual promise between husband and wife to allow Cartini to do her work and to be as independent as possible. Next slide, please. The archive contains also other letters from her sisters, from Cartina to Rosa, about Cartini's death and the loss and the sorrow of her brother-in-law and the baby son. Also printed notifications of the marriage of Rukimi with her husband. All of that is in the archive here at Leiden. Next slide, please. Again, we make these letters available digitally, so you can access these original copy or the copies of the original letters on this URL, on this address. And it also contains a collection guide, including an inventory of all of these letters. Next slide, please. So when you look at, yes, thanks. So when you look at that top part of the collection guide, of the collection site, you will see this collection is described in the collection guide. You can click on that and then you go to the next slide, where you get that complete collection guide. It is in Dutch, but again, through Google Translate, you can easily translate that, and you can see indeed that there is an inventory of all of the holdings in that collection. Next slide, please. And so when you go to the inventory, next slide, you can click on these numbers, and they automatically link, next slide, to the letter that is referred to in the collection guide. So through the collection guide, you can gain access to the documents that we hold in that collection. Next slide, please. So the archives that we're talking about, the Cartini letter archives, contains 361 items. So including about 230 letters written by Cartini or one of her sisters. And our curator, Doris Jadamski, who's available, who is here also in this meeting, has given me this information about how many letters each sister has written to Rosa, mainly to Rosa. But there are also letters about Cartini in the archive, written after her premature death by different people. And it also contains smaller publications and items related to the activities of Cartini. So the archive was donated to KTLV in 1986 by the grandson of Rosa's husband. Next slide, please. Then we have another archive, the RA Cartini Archive, and that archive documents the work of the Cartini Fund and of the Cartini schools, and also includes publications about Cartini. But it's not an archive that contains documents from the time of Cartini herself. It's from after her premature death. And again, there is a collection guide, including also a inventory, again, also available worldwide. So you can also look at that. Next slide, please. And yeah, to close off, basing on the collaboration we already have in 3 previous submissions for Memory of the World, we as Leiden University Libraries will support, together with all of the Indonesian parties, the nomination of the Cartini letters and archives held at various heritage institutions for Memory of the World. So we are looking forward for that, to collaborate with you on that, and we hope that we will, all of us will be successful in doing that. Thank you so much for your attention, and I look also forward to the discussion after this.
Okay, thank you very much. And that's quite interesting presentation with the huge collection of the Leiden University Library, and especially the Cartini Archives. And the last, in the end, there's a statement of support of the Leiden University Library to nominate the Cartini Archives on the nomination in the inscription of International Memory of the World Register of UNESCO. And I think the discussion will be thrilling because I already see many questions in the Q&A forum, and we shall continue this session. So we have reached the discussion session on the webinar. We already selected several remarks and a question in the Q&A and the chat room. So I have, but because of time, and this is the limitation of the difference within the Ramadan and the ordinary months. So we have limited time before we are going to have an iftar during the Maghrib. So I will only read the question from several participants that has an interesting question to the related presenters. So the first one is from Yumif Asfahdiar from Tangerang. So UNESCO Member of the World Program, the Asian Pacific Strategy is administered by International Advisory Committee, whose from 14 members represented by UNESCO Director General. So my question is, what is IAC, International Advisory Committee, who's the 14 members, and what is the purpose of IAC? I think Mr. Ming would like to add something for this. Pak Ming?
Thank you, Mas Adi. So indeed, the UNESCO Memory of the World International Register is also guided by the International Advisory Committee, and this consists of different countries that represent the different geographic region of UNESCO. So we have Asia Pacific, Africa, Latin America. So a mix of countries, and all of them have documentary heritage background. So a lot of them comes from museum backgrounds, archive background, national libraries. So that kind of background. So they are experts. And what they do is that they have different functions. One of the function is to review the nomination, and one of the function is to provide recommendation for the work of UNESCO in documentary heritage preservation. One of the other function is to do research and publication. So there are different functions. And the current composition of the countries are available on the UNESCO website. So I wonder if I can put it out on the chat room. But if you go, let's use internet. If you Google Memory of the World UNESCO, you'll be able to find the main website, and it contains all the relevant and updated information of different countries and their functions that is available. So feel free to Google it, Memory of the World UNESCO, and it's all there. Back to you.
Okay. Yeah, I think, clear explanation from Mr. Ming. So everything also can be searched in the UNESCO website, especially related with the Memory of the World program. So I will continue to our next participant with a question from Mr. Johnny Hassan. Yeah, I will read this bahasa Indonesia. Bertanya, apakah memiliki arsip gender equality dimaksud bukan cuma tentang Kartini atau Dewi Sartika, karena gender di Indonesia hanya bercerita bagaimana wanita setara pria. Padahal dalam tujuan kesetaraan yang banyak batu dan kerikil yang coba disembunyikan agar kesetaraan gender berjalan baik. Semoga perjuangan wanita di Indonesia benar nyata dan berguna bagi keluarga, bagi nusa dan bangsa. Hanya untuk menuntut kita, tetapi juga punya manfaat atas kesetaraan gender dimaksud, sehingga telah dibuktikan dengan darah dan mata. Saran siapapun yang memiliki arsip keterangan dapat menggunakan arsip tersebut ke Andri. Jadi, apakah Andri memiliki arsip di luar kesetaraan gender tersebut? Mungkin pertanyaan untuk Bu Mutu. Silakan Ibu.
Baik, terima kasih atas pertanyaannya untuk Pak Joni ya. Tentunya Andri memiliki arsip bertema kesetaraan gender selain Kartini itu. Dan arsip tersebut masuk dalam daftar arsip bertema gender yang kali ini sedang disusun oleh Andri bekerjasama dengan LIPI. Sebagaimana dipaparkan tadi oleh Ibu Kurniawati dari LIPI, terdapat pula arsip tentang Kongres Perempuan pertama di Indonesia. Jadi itu. Jika arsip tentang Kartini diajukan menjadi Memory of the World, ini adalah langkah awal dalam meningkatkan kesadaran tentang kesetaraan gender dan akses pada arsip tentang isu tersebut. Dalam kegiatan identifikasi berikutnya, cakupan akan diperluas baik dalam hal isu, jadi bukan hanya tentang pemberdayaan perempuan, tapi isu lain seperti perkawinan di bawah umur dan sebagainya, maupun aktor atau pelaku pendukung kesetaraan gender. Tidak hanya perempuan, tetapi juga laki-laki, bukan hanya peran individuan, tetapi organisasi. Mudah-mudahan cukup puas ya Pak Joni untuk jawaban pertanyaannya. Terima kasih.
Baik, terima kasih untuk jawaban yang diberikan oleh siswa. Ya.
Terima kasih atas yang diberikan oleh jawaban yang diberikan oleh dan saya kemudian akan lanjut pertanyaan dari Bapak Hartoyo. Singkat pertanyaannya, is the concept of feminism and gender equality the same? Inilah mungkin pertanyaan untuk Bu Kurniawati. Jadi apakah persamaan konsep definisi dari feminisme dan persamaan gender adalah sama atau berbeda? Silakan Bu Kurnia.
Baik, terima kasih banyak Pak Kesit. Ini pertanyaan penting dan menarik ya. So actually, according to my understandings, feminism actually basically is the idea to end the discrimination against women, and the feminists believe that the basic basic obstacle for woman discrimination is the male domination, or in Indonesian language adalah dominasi laki-laki ya. And then actually this basic principle resonates not only in the Western world but also in Indonesian culture as well, although its culture has different contexts. So in order to applying this basic concept of feminism, we also has to understand the context or the situations of women's and men's struggle in different culture, because perhaps some cultures has a different point of view about genders, expectation on how to become a man and how to become women. Its culture in Indonesia could be different. However, there is academic understanding that basically this discrimination against women, about domination of men against women, it's happened in almost all of the culture. Although maybe the expression is different and the way of the discrimination is different. So that's a basic understanding about the idea of feminism. And the gender equality is actually according to my understanding, is a part of this have the same idea like feminism, but it's like more than just only discrimination against women. Because in gender equality, we put women and men at the same position. In some contexts, perhaps the men who are left behind compared to women. It means in the gender equality, we put all point of view that perhaps in some context, in some institution or in some cultures, it is not only women who are left behind, but also men who are left behind. That's why in Indonesian context, we have this gender mainstreaming issue, which believe that should have this perspective on gender equality, that actually no one left behind, no one meaning men and also women, although in particularly, usually, commonly, it is women who left behind. So I think my explanation is enough, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much, Bu Kurnia, for the explanation. And now we shall continue to the next question will be from Andri, from Mr. Darwish Jacob. Why gender equality always identically to women and also with female heroes such as Kartini? From my research, Tirto Adisurya also supported gender equality from history book I read. Tirto Adisurya also helped and supported Kartini and Dewi Sartika to fight gender equality. Maybe for later, we don't only focus on women or female heroes, but also on figures that fight for gender equality. I think this question will be for both Ibu Multi and Ibu Kurnia also can also answer this. Darwis, from Darwis, yeah. Yeah. So Bu Kurnia.
Okay, so maybe after this Ibu Multi, yeah. According to my understanding, reading the archival record from the Congress, Indonesian Women Congress, the first until the fourth, actually, I mentioned before that the third Women Congress in 1938, it was important Women Congress because there is an inquiry for women suffrage for Indonesian women in the Volkskrant. And actually, it was continued in 1941, the fourth Women Congress. And reading the document and then some research about that, they mentioned about the importance of male prominent Indonesian leader who was member of the Volkskrant, who helping this Indonesian women's movement and Indonesian women's recommendation from the fourth Congress in the Faksi National Faction in the Volkskrant containing the Indonesian main prominent figures. So actually, the gender equality itself is already in the document because, like I said, gender equality meanings also some aspect of collaboration between men and women. Although the prominence record is about Indonesian Women Congress, but we cannot leave out the fact that actually Indonesian women's nationalist movement is also part of this effort to gaining the women suffrage for Indonesian women at the time. So I think give some illustration, yeah, about that. And then from the figure of Kartini, we also remember how the important influence of her father, which is giving permission for Kartini to become a teacher, in which she then tells the story to Abendanon, and then how the important figure of her husband giving a permission to develop a Kartini school in 1903. So actually, yeah, not only men, but actually, if you can find some another document which is strongly have a man figure, then it's okay. But at this time, we have these two documentary heritage, the Indonesian Women Congress and the Cartini letter, which in fact also involving various role of Indonesian male nationalist leaders and also important role of father and husband of Cartini. I think that's from my answer. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ibu Kurniawati, for the answer and the response for the question from Darwis. And we shall continue to our next question. It's from Julia. Yeah. From Juliana. So, like, how is it the identification and authentication of the gender equality related archives, especially in Cartini archives, when during that time there's no archival documentation media, and very short of archival documentary media during the era of Cartini. I think that's probably how to the authentication of the Cartini archives in probably it's from Leiden perspective. Kurt?
Yeah, I'm not sure what is meant by authentication. The question is, are these really Cartini's letters? Is that the question?
Yes, the authentication aspect. Yeah, so are they authentic and really written during that time, and also several aspects with the
Well, again, the letters were held by the family who received them. So, and as I mentioned, the letters were donated by the grandson of Rosa Abenanon. If authentication would be an issue, which I don't think it is, yeah, you could look at handwriting and paper analysis and ink analysis, or all of these types of things. We haven't done that because we think there is no doubt about the authenticity of these documents.
Okay. Yeah, so there's no doubtful in the Cartini archives in the Netherlands. So we will go to the perspective of Andri, who is also become the custodian of the Cartini archives in Indonesia. So Bu Multi, mungkin ada jawaban terkait dengan identifikasi dan autentikasi arsip Cartini di Andri. Silakan, Bu.
Baik, terima kasih atas pertanyaan dari Ibu Juliana. Untuk identifikasi arsip gender di Arsip Nasional dimulai dengan menyusun timeline bertema gender sebagai panduan penulisan arsip. Jadi mulainya dari situ. Selanjutnya timeline ini juga didiskusikan dengan pakar gender serta sejarawan. Kemudian arsip hasil penelusuran diverifikasi dalam hal kesesuaian isi arsip dengan tema atau isu gender serta autentisitasnya, termasuk tingkat keasliannya. Itu kita melakukan beberapa kali diskusi-diskusi dengan para pakar dan merupakan dengan kegiatan-kegiatan workshop dan sebagainya. Arsip tentang Kartini hanya sebagai salah satu bagian dari daftar arsip bertema gender yang berada di Andri. Dalam daftar yang dihasilkan dari hasil identifikasi tahun lalu tersebut, arsip Kartini merupakan salinan dari arsip yang berada di KIRTLP dan sekarang menjadi bagian dari perpustakaan Universitas Leiden. Nah, oleh karena itu, jika arsip tentang Kartini akan diajukan sebagai Memory of the World, maka pengajuan bersama atau joint nomination antara Andri dan Universitas Leiden menjadi sangat penting. Oleh sebab tadi disampaikan bahwa kita perlu sekali untuk mengadakan penambahan arsip-arsip tersebut dengan melalui joint nomination antara Andri dan Universitas Leiden menjadi. Namun demikian, mengingat kegiatan identifikasi ini masih menjadi awal dengan durasi yang cukup singkat, tentunya masih sangat mungkin untuk dapat menemukan arsip tentang Kartini di kasanah lain di Arsip Nasional ataupun di lembaga kearsipan yang ada di Indonesia. Barangkali itu, semoga jawabannya bisa memuaskan Ibu Juliana. Terima kasih.
Yeah, thank you very much for the answer from Ms. Putri Siswati, and I would like to go, since we still have time, about 10 minutes before the conclusion and recommendation. And I will go to the question from the Cabinet Secretariat of SETCAP to Ms. Kurniawati. What is the classification of female heroes in Indonesia? Yes, it's related with the document records and archives. Ya, jadi klasifikasi. Bagaimana sih klasifikasi yang ditetapkan sebagai pahlawan wanita?
Oh, okay, Pak Gesit, thank you. That's important question, but I don't know whether I can answer correctly or not, because probably Pak Ming perhaps can answer as well that questions. But according to my understanding, female heroes, meaning perhaps is the prominent person, of course, male, the female, who has showing the thoughts and actions of developing a gender equality in Indonesian context. And then the context is, of course, different. Like Kartini context is the colonial era in which she has to dealing with the obstacle of the seclusion of the customary adat istiadat, which is restricted for women to have the free education, and as well as the thoughts that a woman at the time was expected to become only a good wife and a good mother, for example, without a good education. So female heroes are anyone, female, either ordinary or prominent person who has thoughts and actions. So it's combination between thoughts and actions who I think can deliver an impact not only for her, but also to empower other women in society and men as well. So I think that's my definition about female heroes. So at this stage, Kartini could be a female heroes, like Rahma El-Jumsia as well. And then probably another prominent figures, if we found in other society, we can also call them a female hero, even a person in ordinary woman in villagers, but she has this initiative and thoughts to do some action, for example, to increasing the welfare of the people in the villagers. She could be a female hero as well. So I think the two components is like thoughts and action to empower herself and then woman and society around her. I think that's my point. Thank you.
Right. Terima kasih. Thank you very much for the answer, Ms. Kurnia. And so I will go to the next question. From actually this I got this from YouTube. I believe also to Bu Kurnia, Bu Multi also. The literature on Kartini can be proposed as heritage, but I also hope archives of other women leaders who raise national gender awareness on rights to education, health, politics should be included. So this is some kind of remark. So probably Ibu Kurnia, I think. Ya, Bu Kurnia lagi ini sepertinya ini.
Okay, terima kasih Pak Gesit. I think, yes, I agree. So as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, we have these limitations because currently the identification of the archive is only those which are available in the ANRI. So in the recommendation, we also suggest if we have time and then money as well, like to wider the collaboration with other institutions across Indonesia, because I believe many prominent figures, women as well, who has important contribution to Indonesian women movement. Like Maria Ulfah Santoso is also one of the important figure as well, who has tremendous contribution during the Indonesian Women Congress. But once we also putting, you recall the history or the contribution of Maria Ulfah Santoso in this historical record of Indonesian Women Congress, I think the narrative of Maria Ulfah Santoso is also part of this narrative in the Indonesian Women Congress. And then like a figure like S.K. Trimurti, also important for labor movement in Indonesia. And then various figures. Dewi Sartika is also important. When I reading the material around 1900s, Dewi Sartika also developing school for girls in Pasundan area. Almost the same like Kartini. So I have to acknowledge the limitation because at this stage we only digging the material those in the archive, but then considering the two universal elements of the memory of the words, whether the document has this universal value and this worldwide impact, and based on these two elements of assessment, then we deciding currently that Kartini is the strongest documentary heritage on gender which has strong potential to be nominated. So if not, we can go into the jungle of archival document across Indonesia. If we have 2 years like for identification, that will be possible, like identify all the heroes across Indonesia, but we only have 5 to 6 months. And so then that's why we have to be guiding by this MOA, Memory of the Words, markers to help us to more focusing in action and identify the archive. So I think that's my answer.
Baik, terima kasih Bu Kurnia. Jadi ada beberapa, ya tidak hanya Kartini ya, jadi ada Dewi Sartika dan beberapa Maria Ulfah, dan sehingga kita tidak bisa juga nanti ada beberapa pilihan lain. Tapi memang Kartini yang the strongest influence on the gender equality in Indonesia until today.
Mas Gesit, bisa saya tambah?
Silakan.
Ya.
Pak mau yang saya mau ke Pak Ming.
So there's a lot of questions about why Kartini is chosen and what about others. And I think these are excellent questions because this is one of the objectives of this collaboration, so that we get people to think about, why are we not talking about this person as well? Why are we not talking about that as well? Because we haven't been talking about them enough since for a very long time. And that has been the case not just in Indonesia, but also across around the world. So one of the hope that we are doing this collaboration is so that we inspire even more research into not just women, but also men, and in different areas. But right now we are concentrating on gender equality. So naturally we are looking at a lot more women focused material, but other speakers have also said it's not just women. Gender equality is men and women, boys and girls. So we hope that this is really where we want to go, where people are asking questions and people are inspired and people are curious to dig deeper and look for more of such stories and documentary heritage that's in different parts of the country. So I think this is really good that people are asking all these questions. Back to you, Mas Kesit.
Oke, terima kasih Pak Ming. Ya, memang yang baru kita bicarakan baru Kartini, belum yang lainnya. Nanti kalau kita bicarakan yang lainnya mungkin butuh 2-3 kali seminar lagi bersama Pak Ming dan Bu Kurnia dan Ibu Multi dan Pak Kurt. Nah, saya akan lanjut. I will continue to the next. Perhaps this will be our last question before the final remarks by the presenters. So this is a question from University of Airlangga from Surabaya. So this is not a question actually, just want to discuss, said Vita. The purpose of the webinar was the recognition of the world that Kartini was the one of the fighter for emancipation, woman emancipation in Indonesia. Can it be proven by a letter to send to her friend in the Netherlands, and the letter becomes evidence, or the archive is maintained? So yeah, it's her English. The easier way is with Cartini Archive. So the question will be to Pak Kurt. So how can we prove that the Cartini become the fighter of this woman emancipation in Indonesia? Can it be proved by the letter and documents that are kept in Leiden, or we should conduct further research or something? Yeah. Perhaps to Pak Kurt.
Could you repeat what the question precisely is? What the question of proof is?
Precisely is could the Cartini archives that kept by Leiden University Library prove that Cartini was the fighter for woman emancipation in Indonesia, or we need further research, joint research within our country, or etc. Yeah, please.
Again, I'm not an expert on Cartini, so there are other people who could answer that question much more in a better way. But at least the documents I've read clearly show someone in the early part of the 20th century taking on an independent position towards her father, her husband, being someone who has their own ideas and want to establish schools, education for girls and boys. And I would consider that, again, of the limited knowledge that I have, of very clear indicators that has really made an impact on Indonesian society and the way in which women and girls are looked at. The fact that there is, of course, a Kartini Day, that she is considered as an Indonesian hero, further indicate that. But when you really go to the sources, and again, I'm not the expert in that, I think there is enough evidence to show her independent position and thinking, and also even more importantly, her action that the action she has undertaken.
Okay. Yeah. And we are going to continue to hear the answer from Indonesian side too. So Ibu Multi, silakan untuk merespon pertanyaan yang sama. Bagaimana arsip Kartini tadi yang dari Wita.
Baik nih Mbak Wita. Kalau nanti akan dilakukan semacam apa? Ini memang harus dilakukan penelitian atau pengkajian. Sementara ini arsip-arsip yang banyak terdapatnya di Belanda ya, yang arsip aslinya. Jadi nanti kita akan sama-sama dengan LIPI, Arsip Nasional akan sama-sama dengan LIPI untuk mengkaji arsip-arsip tersebut. Dan tentu saja kita berharap bahwa ke depan kita bisa mengajukan arsip Kartini ini menjadi Memory of the Word tentang gender. Barangkali itu tambahannya dari saya sedikit saja. Terima kasih Mbak Wita. Dan mudah-mudahan puas dengan dua jawaban dari Pak Lut dan dari saya. Terima kasih.
Pak Gesit, can I ask?
Yeah,
Can I add?
Terima kasih, and thank you very much for.
May I just add one more thing?
Yeah.
May I just add one more thing? Yeah. As I mentioned before, the Cartini letters are available digitally, so anyone can read them from their own laptop or their own computer. Yeah. Of course, as was mentioned before, the Cartini letters have also been published and translated in a number of languages, so people can really read for themselves what she has said. It's not something for which you have to do remote archive research. These are all of that material is easily available.
Okay.
Gesit, can I add something?
Yes, please.
Yeah, just want to add 1 minute about the question, because the question is important, whether the Cartini is really empowerment, giving some empowerment or nuance during because we try to bring her nominations. I think as explained by Mr. Builders, it's absolutely correct. And then just want to adding that what has been done by Cartini is an empowerment. Empowerment meaning power within herself and power to meaning action. And Cartini already represents through the letters how she developed the gender awareness about herself and her situation from various letters to Mrs. Abendano. And then she also doing power to empower other women, other girls by doing the action of developing the Girl for School in 1903. And once he was died in 1904, and because of the good memory of Mr. and Mrs. Abendano, then they published the letter in 1911. And then the impact of the letters this is according to my understanding, the impact of the letters in the Netherlands is huge. And then they developed the funds from these letters to develop the school, Van der Venter School, which is also Cartini School, and then Van der Venter School. So we can see the impact of the Cartini letters even until she was although she already died, but then the inspiration to develop the girls' school through the Cartini School since 1912 and the Van der Venter School also continue. And this is all for women, and then universally, it also contribute to education for all girls and boys in Indonesia. So I think that's a strong point to show that actually Cartini already have this empowerment nuance, power within and power to. I think that's my adding explanation. Thank you.
Sorry, thank you very much for the completing answer from Miss Kurniawati, Dr. Kurniawati. So not last least. Now we are in the end of the discussion panel session. So then I would like to ask all the 4 presenters to give his final remarks. So I will start with Bu Kurnia, perhaps the first, to deliver your final remarks for this the webinar, please, Bu Kurnia.
Okay, thank you, Pak Gesit. In this important webinar, I would like to say thank you and great appreciation. I express my gratitude to Ibu Multi from ANRI, and then Indonesia, Bapak Laksana Triandoko, and then Mr. Ming from UNESCO, and then Mr. Kut, the builder, and then all the colleagues from ANRI, Professor Dr. Awiza Erman, and then all the teams from ANRI who has working so hard. And then I think this is not the end, but the beginning of the long road to nominations of Indonesian documentary heritage on gender equality. I was surprised and really inspired by all the Cartini letters and also all of other heroes, Indonesian heroes, but it is basically the Cartini letters who has tremendous impact, not only in Indonesia, but also in scholarly work, because on the almost all scholarly works on gender equality in Indonesia, talking about the Cartini letters, talking about how her action in developed the girls' school in 1903, and although in different mosaic story. So I think we have to keep the spirit to go into the nomination these Cartini letters, and then hopefully we can going hand in hand together with the government of the Netherlands and the UNESCO in Jakarta. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much for the perfect final remarks. So it's not the end, so it's only the beginning. So Pak Ming, shall we continue? But hold on first before your remarks, Pak Ming, because we are going to Bu Multi first to give her final remarks. Silakan Bu. Ya, silakan Bu.
Ya, kami sangat mendukung dengan pelaksanaan kegiatan seminar yang dilakukan pada siang hari ini mulai tadi siang sampai sore, dan mudah-mudahan apa yang sudah kita bicarakan pada siang hari ini sampai sore ini ada hasil yang bermanfaat, dan tentu saja kami dari Arsip Nasional mengucapkan terima kasih kepada semua yang terlibat dalam webinar ini. Dan tentunya kami selalu mengajak untuk kolaborasi antara Arsip Nasional dengan Belanda untuk sama-sama ke depannya kita menyongsong penominasian arsip gender Kartini ini bersama-sama menjadi Memory of the World. Ya, terima kasih.
Kita could I ask the spotlight to go to my camera. Yes. And yes. So our next final remarks is from Pak Kurt, the builder. So Pak Kurt, please.
Well, I'm very happy that there is so much interest. It also showed me there were more than 1,000 participants in this webinar. There were lots of questions asked. So it is a very important topic. And from Leiden University Libraries, we love to collaborate closely with Indonesian institutions to bring this forward. And whether it are the Cartini letters or other archival materials where we can be of help, we love to do that. So I'm really looking forward to our next steps.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Pak Kurt, and for the final remarks and the commitment to support the nomination and the collaboration with the Indonesian institution. It's really a great and tremendous effort shall be conducted by both countries further in the future. So, last, Pak Ming, it will be the final remarks of this webinar. Silakan, Pak Ming.
Terima kasih. So, thank you very much to everyone, and of course, terima kasih Bapak dan Ibu yang mengikut seminar hari ini. So, it's very heartening to see such a big interest in the topic that we are discussing. And if anything, I think we have already achieved one of the goal, which is to raise awareness on documentary heritage. And from UNESCO's perspective, that is indeed one of the objective of the program, which is to increase public's awareness on the importance of documentary heritage around the world, because we know sometimes the work of archival work is not as glamorous as some of the other topics, but it is so important, and we really hope that these kind of activities will help increase its awareness. And UNESCO, of course, is ready to support and to continue to collaborate. And I see our good colleague from Japan, Haga-san, from Memory of the World Asia Pacific. And that is also another resource that Indonesia can link to, the Memory of the World MOCAP, Memory of the World Asia Pacific. So there's a lot of resources and network that is available. And that is, again, another part of the Memory of the World program to strengthen the networks with different countries between Indonesia, Netherlands, and of course, other countries in the region as well. So I think we are off to a very good start, and we are looking forward to even more from our collaboration. So back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And thank you all for the presenters and for this fruitful discussion this afternoon. And we hope we shall have this discussion in the future and a more convenience time, and also together with a lot of participants like today, almost over 1,000, and now until the end we still reach 800. It's quite a magnificent amount of participants today. So in the final, I would like to read the conclusion and the conclusions and recommendation that already arranged by our team. So the conclusion for the webinar is the seminar participant acknowledged that information on gender empowerment in the Memory of the World inscription, which is categorized based on the gender equality markers, is relatively scant or small. The result of the panel discussion revealed that information about gender equality originates from the archives not only has local or national significance, but also has international significance, which has an impact on world civilization. Hence, a lot of figures and events related to gender equality information recorded and stored in heritage or memory institution are considered to be hidden gems. Now, I would like to go to the recommendation. To increase the public awareness on the gender issue, the first recommendation will be to increase the public awareness on gender issue and gender-related archival documentary heritage in Indonesia will require sound policies, strategies, and on-target development programs that focuses on efforts to enhance dissemination and exchange of information on gender issue and gender-related archival documentary heritage within and among stakeholders. Second one is, as the initial step to raise the public awareness and to promote universal access to the archives, it is necessary to do research and identification programs on documented heritage archives that categorize under the germ in the custody of the memory institution. The third one is to enhance the collaboration on the nomination of gender-related documentary heritage for the inscription on the International Memory of the World Register of the UNESCO. The result of research and identification programs that carried out by memory institution should be accessible and communicated to the stakeholders and interest parties. So that's all. And for the conclusion and recommendation for this afternoon webinar. So it also ended my session as a moderator. I would like to thanks once again to all presenters and all participants with the question for this afternoon session. So last but not least, I would like to return the forum to the MC. Thank you very much.
Terima kasih Bapak Ade Gesit Tambudi yang telah memimpin jalannya diskusi pada hari ini. Bapak Ibu yang berbahagia, seperti yang telah kami sampaikan di awal acara, bahwa panitia telah menyiapkan 5 hadiah menarik berupa kaos untuk 5 penanya terbaik. Hadiah ini dipersembahkan oleh archives.id. Perkenankan saya untuk membacakan pemenang untuk 5 penanya terbaik. Kelima pemenang tersebut adalah Bapak Joni, Bapak Yumif Asfahdiar, Ibu Juliana, Bapak Iqbal Cahaya, dan Ibu Wita dari Unair. Kepada para pemenang, disilakan untuk menghubungi narahubung atau panitia penyelenggara. Terima kasih. Bapak Ibu yang kami hormati, tidak terasa kita telah sampai di penghujung acara. Atas nama panitia yang bertugas, kami ucapkan terima kasih atas perhatian Bapak dan Ibu. Selamat sore. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Pak Ming.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Pak Ming, Mr. Builder, Bu Multi,
Thank you, El.
Mas Kesit, Bu Endang.
Yeah.
Great job.
Thank you, Hafiza.
Thank you. Dr. Lim, how are
Banyak
you?
panitia Andri dan Lipi